right, we're getting back into it again today. We are looking at this ongoing tornado outbreak. It's been going on for a little bit, but we're really seeing these storms break into that high risk zone. We've seen a lot more tornado warnings pop up here, and we're looking at what is becoming a very active tornado day, which unfortunately does not really come as a surprise here. This is impacting much of the southeastern U.S. in particular. We've been talking about how this is the area of greatest risk with this entire outbreak, and we're certainly going to be looking at a lot more activity as we go through the next little while. Welcome back in, Storm Chaser. Good to see you again. And everyone on TikTok as well. We're doing our dual TikTok and YouTube stream here, so if you guys were here yesterday, welcome back. And as you can tell already, we have a very active scene ongoing in the southeastern U.S. A lot of tornado warnings and already tornadoes that have been confirmed across Mississippi. They're moving into Alabama now as well. So we're really just getting going on some of the peak of the day. I mean, this is likely to be the peak of the day, these next several hours, which is why we're jumping on right now. So again, we're looking at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate storm cells that are tornado warned right now in Mississippi and in Alabama. So again, like I said, an active scene, and certainly several areas where we have tornadoes that are either confirmed or at least being indicated by radar. 2 confirmed tornadoes right now. The one is moving through Mississippi near Seminary and Collins and Bassfield, which was impacted by a significant tornado about 5 years ago. And we have another one that's near Meridian, Mississippi as well. That tornado has also been observed. So we have 2 confirmed tornadoes on the ground right now. Again, there's one near Meridian, and then there's one that will be moving in the direction of places like Ellisville, Laurel, and Seminary as well. So very active situation as we jump on right now, right off the bat. So expect things to continue to actually ramp up. I've seen footage of confirmed tornadoes already. So there's a lot that's already happened, and there's a lot that's going on right now. So if you guys are just jumping on here, welcome in. I am a meteorologist, so you're going to get good weather information here. We will be talking about the tornadoes as we track them on radar, and like I said, this is going to be a very active day, and I know it's only March and severe weather season has a long way to go, but this may very well end up being one of the most active weather days that we have this year, in fact. So, I know that sounds like a lot because it's so early on, but we really do have a lot going on right now, and it is, it has every making of one of the more significant outbreaks that we will see. So, again, a lot going on right now. So what we're taking a look at, like I said, is tornado warnings right now lining up in the eastern portion of Mississippi. We also have some tornado warnings into Alabama now. The areas, and I'm looking at TikTok chat, looking at YouTube chat, 2 places we got streaming going on. And right now it does seem, I'll take a look at some of those locations you guys are dropping. Although it is helpful if you give me like a direction, like, northern Mississippi or something like that, or southern Mississippi. But I see Bay St. Louis. I'll take a look at that for you right now. And like I said, there are a lot of questions come quickly, so I can't promise I'll get to all of them, but I'll do my best. As we look down towards Bay St. Louis in Mississippi, right now there isn't anything going on, but as we get later into the afternoon and the evening, that is a spot that we will be watching for potential impacts. So we have got, like I said, we've got a lot going on right now, and more that will be continuing. I'm just trying to get myself oriented with some tools here so we can make sure you get the best coverage, as always. Let me see what we got here. Give me one moment while I work on getting some more information, but welcome back in, and I will do, so you guys who are in, we'll switch to velocity too. You guys who are in places like Missouri that had the severe weather yesterday, luckily that threat for you guys has passed, so we're not as concerned about you dealing with that severe weather anymore. That was more of a yesterday thing, and we're now focused more so on the southeastern U.S., which is where we have our biggest storm threat at this time. There we go. So yes, a lot of activity still ongoing, but not quite as much as we were looking at yesterday. At least, sorry, there will be just as much as we saw yesterday, but not in the same places that we saw yesterday. There we go. Just updating some settings on the YouTube side of the stream here. So, all right, now we're good. Now we're locked in and focused. So let's see where people are at. Alabaster, Alabama, and Mississippi. Yeah, so Mississippi right now on the eastern side of the state. I'll take a look at Alabaster, by the way. Mississippi, if you're on the eastern side of the state, that's where the tornado threat is greatest right now. We have a few areas, several areas that are facing tornado warnings right now. Alabaster is certainly in a spot where we will be watching very closely for tornadoes today, especially as we get into the early evening hours. That's where that threat is going to be greatest. Again, we're looking at what is a tornado outbreak ongoing, especially out there. You can see across the eastern portion of Mississippi and into the central portion of Alabama. There is one storm in particular, this storm moving towards, let's see actually, well, it looks like this is weakened just a bit, but we had one storm moving in the direction of Seminary that was particularly bad looking on radar. And if we zoom in on that one, we switch to our velocity, you're going to see that we have the potential for a tornado very clearly on radar here. You can see our couplet, that red and blue color side by side. This storm is moving in the direction of Seminary. It is not far from Bassfield, which of course saw the infamous tornado several years ago. And we actually do have a debris signature in here moving near Melba, and this is in Mississippi. So we have debris. This is it should be a confirmed tornado. You can see that little blue spot in the middle of all that red. That is your debris ball. So we definitely have a tornado on the ground here. Let me draw a little tracker. I'm also streaming, those of you guys on TikTok, I'm also streaming on YouTube. So I am tracking in two different places. And some of the places that this storm is headed next is we got Seminary, of course, like I said, in about 10 to 15 minutes. Gansey, Eminence, Oak Bowery, Sandhill, Mount Zion, Summerland are some of the places that this storm is headed towards right now. But certainly this is a tornado, and we can see the debris on radar, and it is moving in the direction of Seminary. This is one of our more significant tornado, at least warnings right now. I know we also have, or did have, another confirmed tornado, and it is near Meridian. So we can also take a look at that one near Meridian, and we will take a look and see if we have any sort of a confirmation on what it is doing right now. So let me move over there. We'll take a look at what we're seeing here. I don't see any debris in the Meridian tornado warning, at least. And it looks as though the warning, at least, though it says there is a confirmed tornado, that was likely for, the warning was likely issued a little while ago when it was more clear. I'm not seeing as clear a sign that there is a tornado on the ground right now, but certainly that is a different story if we're looking out towards the Seminary area. So if you're there, remember, you got to head down to the safe place. That's lowest floor of your house, away from exterior walls and windows. And this is our certainly our one tornado at this moment that I can say is definitely on the ground, and we can see that debris right there. I'll take a look at Fairhope, Alabama, because I see a few guys asking there. And we'll get an idea of where things are headed next. Let me just make sure you're not in that one warning that we're tracking too. We have, so Fairhope, again, those of you guys who are on the coastlines, the threat is still increasing where you are, but it is not quite there yet. So we're waiting to see that threat increase more as we get into the evening. Certainly, though, this is not a great situation for Seminary. So do we have anyone in either chat, in YouTube or TikTok chat, who's in Seminary by chance? Because this is where we are watching for this tornado to make a very close pass. Hopefully not. Those of you guys who are a little farther north, Ohio, Kentucky, it is likely to be a threat that stays to your south, luckily. Let's see. I'm waiting to see if we get any more information from the National Weather Service here. But certainly, this is a tornado on the ground. Let me see if I can get an idea of what direction it's headed specifically. And it looks as though it's going to pass between Collins and Seminary, this tornado on the ground right now. So between Collins and Seminary is where I'm expecting this to pass. You can see that velocity couplet here, and that tells us that, again, we are looking at very strong rotation. The debris tells us that this is lifting debris into the air, of course, and it looks to be passing between Seminary and Collins, Mississippi. So Mount Horeb, Providence, Willowtown, these are places that may be impacted next. And if you are in any of those places or you know someone in those places, make sure they're aware of what is coming their way, because this is a very serious situation, as we do have a tornado on the ground right now. And certainly it is not the only one that we will be tracking today, as we stay very active watching radar. Just jumping around a couple other storms out here just to double check that we don't have any other tornadoes ongoing. The storm that we have right now near Montrose in Mississippi, that is another one that is interesting in that it is rotating without a doubt here. There's no way to say for sure if there is a tornado on the ground, but you really got to be in your safe place if you're anywhere near Montrose or to the northeast. Again, this is in Mississippi. We do have a tornado warning in Alabama right now. I did just take a look at, and I'm not seeing anything as pressing in terms of, well, you know what, actually, the latest radar scan is a little more interesting on that one. Just keeping an eye on our Mississippi storm too. This one's near Pleasant Ridge. Excuse me, I meant to say Alabama there. This one's near Pleasant Ridge, Alabama. It's moving through, it looks like, some smaller populated areas, but Pleasant Ridge, Morrows Grove, Pleasant Grove are some spots that we are watching. And we're going to keep an eye on this Alabama storm. We're going to come back to it because it's hard to say if there's something on the ground right now, while we definitely have one on the ground in Mississippi. But that Alabama storm, it is going to be getting pretty close to Tuscaloosa soon, so we are going to jump back to that as that gets closer and closer to Tuscaloosa. There is no warning in Tuscaloosa right now, but if you are in Tuscaloosa, you should at least be thinking about heading to your safe place. Not this moment, but you just make sure you're ready to do that. You know, grab whatever you need right now and just wait for us to see a little more on radar as it approaches. But right now, like I said, our primary threat is this tornado-warned storm. It's heading right between Seminary and Collins. We do have debris being detected by radar, and certainly we have that couplet there that is your rotation that we're seeing on radar. Let's see. I'm looking at chats, by the way. I'm doing my best to answer your questions here, but let's see. Let's see. If you were in Athens, that threat's going to increase a little bit later. Basically, most of Alabama, unless you're in the northwestern side of Alabama, that threat is going to increase a little bit later on this evening. It's not the highest concern at this moment. We're still looking at Mississippi storms. These storms, a lot of questions about Virginia. And Virginia is going to see the chance for some storms, a lower chance for tornadoes. That will come tomorrow, though. So that is an area that we're watching for impacts, especially on your Sunday. What I'll say is this debris signature, not as impressive on our latest scan. That tells us that there may be at least some downtick in intensity, but nonetheless, it is still there. And also worth noting, we still very much have that couplet. We're getting some radar updates now, so let's take a look at what we have there as far as velocity goes. Still very much rotating without a doubt. But it does appear that rotation has at least ticked down a little bit. The debris ball is not as obvious, but this is still making a very close pass between Seminary and Collins, likely a little bit closer to Seminary out here in Mississippi. And this is a dangerous storm that we certainly need to be keeping a very close eye on. We have another storm that will be, did they drop that warning? I don't currently have a warning on this storm near Montrose. I'm very surprised. I believe that should be warned. So I'm keeping a close eye on this one. This is in Mississippi, like I said, moving in the direction of Hickory and Chunky. I don't know who names these towns, but that's one for sure. So again, near Montrose, Mississippi, you can see we clearly have a couplet here. This storm is moving to the north and east. It's in an environment, as all these storms are, that will be favorable for producing tornadoes, and we will be watching this storm closely as well. Let's take a look at that Alabama storm now. How about we? That's one area that, of course, is going to see a lot more activity as we get a bit later on. This storm producing a lot of lightning, this storm in Alabama, and that tells us that the updraft is still very active and healthy. And we can see there's rotation in here. We got those blue and red colors nearby. The one thing is that we cannot confirm whether a tornado is on the ground right now or anything like that. We just know the storm, it is showing signs, plenty of signs of rotation, and it is moving northeast. It's kind of sort of in the middle of nowhere. Let me see if I can get some town names for you. It's south of Aliceville. It's near Pleasant Ridge, Lewiston, Morrows Grove. If this was going to produce a tornado, it would really be in the Lewiston, Morrows Grove area right now if it is producing. Of course, this is a tornado-warned storm, so you should be in your safe place. But this is where we are looking at the current threat. I am seeing some questions about other places, like Ohio, for example. Let me just open up. I can open up the threat levels for today, basically. You can look at those as well. And this is where we have our severe weather threat. Let me do the same thing for YouTube as well, where we got people watching. We were doing this yesterday, looking at, oh, and it looks like they extend that. No, they did not. Okay. They did just, the Storm Prediction Center just updated their outlook, but the outlook has not changed much. So again, we have that high risk for severe weather, that area shaded in pink. Let me just refresh this so you get the latest. That is our high risk area. That's where the chance for tornadoes is greatest today. Actually, you know what? They did extend the moderate risk a little bit farther north, and that moderate risk, that area shaded in red, that is also, I mean, any given day, that moderate risk is very concerning, and it is today too. But my point right now is that because the threat is so high, it almost kind of desensitizes us to that. This is largely going to end up being a damaging wind threat as they move into Tennessee, a damaging wind and tornado threat. But the damaging wind is the reason that moderate risk was extended farther north. Aliceville tornado is throwing debris. Let's take a look at that one again. They did just warn that tornado, by the way, that I was talking about before, or that tornado warned storm by Montrose. So that Montrose storm, once again, has been tornado warned, and we are going to get a tracker on that now for you too. So I'm going to jump back to radar for you guys. Let's see what we have here on our radar. We have, let's see. So here we are near Montrose. It's now beyond Montrose, moving the direction of Hickory and Chunky. You can see those green and red colors side by side. This is on our wind velocity, so we can pretty clearly see where it is rotating right now, and it's going to continue to move to the northeast here. Our storm right now is moving at, let's see how fast it is moving, at 55 miles per hour to the northeast. Just like yesterday, we saw a lot of fast-moving storms. That's going to require you to be prepared ahead of time, because there may be less time for you to get to that safe place where you need to go. And then I'll cover the storms out there in Indiana and Ohio, since you guys seem to be asking about that. So Hickory and Chunky, we got about 15 and 20 minutes respectively. Meehan, and about 20 minutes as well for this one. Again, it is tornado warned. There is no confirmed tornado, but it is certainly rotating without a doubt, and that is something that will need to be monitored closely. Our storm near Seminary, I'm just taking a look at this one again here too. I'm going to bring you over to that, and I'm not seeing as clear a sign of debris at this point. It looks like there was some debris still in the storm, but you can clearly see this is rotating. You can see those red and blue colors side by side. That tells us that we are looking at least a very strong mesocyclone, which is rotation within the storm. And within that, you can get tornadoes to drop out. So that's what we're looking at right now. Seeing some questions about Ohio, about Indiana. Let's see where else. We got, looks like a lot of Ohio and Indiana. And those areas a little bit farther to the north, like Ohio and Indiana, those are places that will be facing a severe weather threat later tonight. But you guys in Ohio, you guys in Indiana, the threat is comparably much lower. And if I switch back to our threat map here, you're going to see you're in that level 1 risk, which for our purposes is not a very significant risk for severe weather. It does mean that severe weather is possible, but the southern end of Indiana is in a level 2 risk. But I would just, I'd prepare for some strong storms, though severe weather, like I said, not as concerning, not even nearly as concerning as these areas farther south, luckily. So you do need to be alert and aware, but you don't need to be as concerned. Yes, could be some thunderstorms. You're likely to hear some rumbles of thunder out there, especially if you're in Ohio, in Kentucky. I saw some people asking questions about that. But the tornado threat out there is comparably much lower. So again, we're looking at several tornado warnings right now, moving from Mississippi into Alabama at this time. We have several areas of rotation. Certainly, we're looking at this storm between Collins and Seminary. It is difficult to say if it's still producing a tornado. This one did produce a tornado earlier. And in case it is, if you live anywhere north of Seminary or east of Collins, you really got to be in your safe place. I'm going to put a tracker on this. We're gonna track this one out over the next little while here. Just get an idea of where it is headed next. So let me track this one. We got this storm moving around 55 miles per hour also. So it's moving to Abron, Summerland, and Gitano are the towns that this will impact next. But also Providence, Willowtown, We're also looking at Station Creek, Leaf River, and Shady Oak. Those are all places, Bethel as well, in Mississippi. These are all places that may be impacted by the storm, and if there was a tornado, it'd be right there between Collins and Seminary in Mississippi, right between the two cities there. So something to keep an eye on closely for us, of course. We're also looking at a storm. It's that middle tornado warning that is rotating. Like I said before, it's moved past Montrose. We are looking at the storm moving in the direction of Hickory and Chunky, and eventually it'll get pretty close to Meridian. And then we also have another tornado-warned storm right now that is worth watching as well. It's near Aliceville. We did get a comment in YouTube chat from Storm Chaser that it is throwing debris. So let's take a look at this one now. This is near Tuscaloosa, getting close to Coker in Alabama here. You can see the hook pretty clearly on this storm. That hook, of course, indicating that the storm is rotating, and we have the rotation here on our velocity as well. It is tough to say how much of this could be debris or hail. It looks more like hail to me right now, but without a doubt, it is rotating, and this storm is moving awfully close to western Tuscaloosa. And if I try to track exactly where this thing is going, I would be very, very careful if I was out in places like Benevola, Pleasant Grove, Pioneer, Jenna. These are all places in Alabama here, and this storm does look pretty dangerous. Again, producing a lot of lightning too, so it is active. It is in a good environment to keep on going. There aren't many storms around this one, so I wouldn't be shocked. This has the potential to be a long-tracked and very strong tornado. It is definitely in the right place to really get its act together, and it may be doing that right now. And it has a lot of runway. You know, this really does have a lot of ability to really keep going for a while. Again, this is not a confirmed tornado, but it is showing a lot of rotation, at least in the mid-levels, and that's a sign that it certainly has the ability to produce a tornado. And if we take a look at our debris, I'm not seeing any obvious signs of debris right now, but it is certainly a supercell and has the ability to produce. And we actually did just get another tornado warning. This is very close to Nashville, Tennessee. I'm going to move us a little farther north. Do we have anyone from Tennessee in chat right now? In YouTube chat or in YouTube or TikTok chat? Anyone in Tennessee at the moment? Because we got a tornado warning that just got issued. It is very close to Nashville. It's actually Murfreesboro, Tennessee is included in this tornado warning. So Murfreesboro, it is time to get to your safe place, without a doubt. If we open up our velocity, this looks like it would be right now. If there was a tornado in here, it'd likely be right around the middle of the warning, just beyond, just to the north and east of Unionville. That would be in Tennessee. We do not have any debris showing up right now, but we do have a tornado warning. Murfreesboro, Tennessee is included in it. So are areas to the south and east of Murfreesboro. So that is where we have our newest tornado warning right now, and this storm is going to be moving to the north and east. So not going to impact Nashville, but it is moving through a pretty populated area, and it is included in a pretty big mess of rain and storms. We have a pretty strong line of storms currently moving through Tennessee, and within that line of storms, we may see some tornadoes form. So if there's going to be tornadoes in Kentucky today, it's most likely to be with this section of our storm threat as well. So we're going to be watching that later. Saw you got a friend in Chattanooga. I was actually talking about, to someone in Chattanooga earlier. Chattanooga, I know there was a pretty significant tornado not long ago, and tornadoes are inherently unlikely, but the thing with tornadoes is that on a day like today, you can never rule them out. So I don't want you to think that this is going to be EF3 tornado for everyone in this threat. Most of you, the reality is, will not see tornadoes, but the potential is there for any of you to see one, and that's the real danger here. We did just get an extension on this tornado warning near Tuscaloosa. It is not a confirmed tornado, but again, this storm is of particular interest, and it will be moving into northern Alabama as well here as we get into the next few hours. Again, just to the west of Tuscaloosa right now. Coker is a spot where we need to be in our safe places because this storm is moving right in that direction. That is just to the to the west of Tuscaloosa. and we're going to continue to watch this storm as it's having a hard time completely getting its act together, but it is certainly rotating right now, and we are going to be watching as it moves farther and farther to the northeast in a very favorable environment for tornado production. I'm checking back on our other storms, by the way, to the south and west. I don't see anything confirmed right now, but we do have that storm that's moving near Hickory, Mississippi. The storm near Hickory is certainly rotating. We definitely have a storm that is capable of producing a tornado, though I don't see any sign of it producing something right now. But Hickory and Chunky, Mississippi, those are two places that you definitely need to be in your safe place right now as you are in that tornado warning. We got that other storm near Collins and Seminary. This also very much has the ability to produce a tornado. We have a very strong mesocyclone, so a lot of rotation within the cloud, but it's hard to say right now if it is actually producing. And the next places it will be headed are Hebron, Gitano, Summerland, Soso, Stringer, and Moss are all areas where this potential tornado could impact. So we were looking at those areas right now too. Starkville, Mississippi. I was looking at Starkville earlier. Let me get an update for you guys out there, by the way. And those of you guys who live a little farther north, these storms are moving northwards, but they're also moving to the east. So Alabama and Georgia will both be facing potential impacts from at least severe weather, and there's likely to be some tornadoes in those areas a bit farther to the east as well. So a lot to watch tonight. Let me see if I can get an update on Starkville for you guys as I continue to just monitor everything that we are tracking at this moment. Starkville right now, the worst of this seems to be to your south. We're going to keep an eye on a line of storms on the back. You can kind of see that line of storms on the back end of this. Nothing there is producing right now. I do, at this point, feel that Starkville is not in a bad spot, but you should be aware and prepared for at least the next few hours before the entire threat passes. Once it does, things change, but you still have a few hours while this threat is going to be on the higher end of things. Let's see. I'm seeing some of your questions. Clarksville, Tennessee, it's a good question. Clarksville is also a spot I was looking at before, but the threat in Clarksville seems to be reasonably low. There is still a couple hours that I want to watch before I say, hey, you're all clear, but Clarksville, that threat appears reasonably low. Where the threat does not appear as low right now, again, is Murfreesboro, and this storm beginning to look a little bit more impressive as we see a more well-defined hook forming on radar. And this is, again, to the south of Murfreesboro right now, more likely to miss the city, but it is going to pass very close. Actually, they just modified the tornado warning to take Murfreesboro out of it, basically exactly what I was saying right there. This storm looks to continue moving to the north and east. It is right by Christiana, and it's going to continue moving into places like Mount Tabor, Pleasant View, Floriton, Kittrell. So if you're in any of those places, you really need to be prepared to head to you need to be in your safe place right now. You really need to be prepared for the weather to get really bumpy here as this potential tornado continues to move to the northeast. So we're looking at areas just to the south and east of Murfreesboro. Still not seeing debris, but seeing rotation, and we have a pretty clear hook on radar right now, which is where we're looking at. That's where the tornado would be, right where that hook is, right by Christiana. So we're tracking this one very closely. Zachary, Louisiana. Let me get a look at that one for you too here. What I'll say about Louisiana is for a lot of the state, that threat has decreased, but let me take a look and see what we got. So a lot of the storms in Louisiana at this moment are going to be in the very far south and eastern portion of the state. So like between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, that is where these storms are right now. If you're west of those areas, you're going to be okay at this point. The threat is lower, but for Zachary, as I look it up here on my map, I can see it just north of Baton Rouge. In Zachary, good news, the worst of this storm has passed, and while there may be some downpours or rumble of thunder here or there, the severe weather threat has passed, although what I will say is that just to your south in Baton Rouge, we do have a flash flood warning, and that is for those more urban areas that may not drain as well. But otherwise, you should be okay in Zachary. Looks like a quick little downpour may pass you right now, but you're going to be all right out there. Much of Louisiana is in the clear. Baton Rouge, you're in the clear as well if anyone's in Louisiana. But if you are in New Orleans, you are not yet in the clear. So we're watching you guys out there too. Going to go back to, I'm going to check out a couple storms in Alabama, leaving you guys on TikTok on our Murfreesboro storm. I'm also going to try to answer your questions. By the way, if you guys are watching on TikTok, I'm also streaming right now on YouTube. You can find me at Tucker Weather. I'll see your questions a lot quicker if you move on over to YouTube. You don't have to. I'm looking at your questions in TikTok chat too, but I'll see your questions a lot faster in YouTube chat. That's where there's less people in there right now, so take a look at that. Oh, good. Yeah, your family should be all right, Danielle. I did not see if anything impacted them earlier, but right now, if they're okay right now, they're going to be all good. Again, taking a look at our storm that is near Tuscaloosa right now. Still seeing rotation, no sign of a tornado on the ground, but there is certainly a lot of rotation with that. And as we head back towards Murfreesboro, just to monitor rotation on this, you can see the hook on radar still, but we're not seeing any certain sign of a tornado. But I'll put a tracker on this Murfreesboro storm as well, just so we get an idea on who may be being impacted by this next. And towns we're looking at: Gum, Floriton, Kittrell, Halls Hill, Readyville, and Porterfield. Those are all areas south and east of Murfreesboro that could be impacted by the storm. I'm going to switch us back to our storm that is near Tuscaloosa. It is tornado warned. Like I said, this, if it was producing a tornado, would be moving near Coker. I do not at this point see any imminent threat, but we're going to take a look at this here on YouTube as well. This storm near Tuscaloosa has the potential to produce a tornado. I'm simply not seeing it at this moment, however, and while it is rotating, there is nothing to say that there is anything on the ground. But once more, if you're near Coker, this storm would be passing you on the highway just to your west. So Buhl, B-U-H-L, however you pronounce that, Buhl perhaps. That's an area that we will be watching for potential impacts on this one. We have a little bit of lull in activity right now, but still a lot of potential with all of these storms. So I'm taking a look at chat now. I'm going to try to answer some more of your questions here. I see Savannah. I think that's supposed to say Savannah, and Georgia. So if you're anywhere in Georgia, this threat's going to increase after midnight. The farther east you are, the lower the threat is going to be. Rome as well. If you are on the border of Georgia and Alabama, that's where the threat is going to be highest within the state. But as you move farther east, if you're on the eastern side of Georgia, that threat's actually a bit lower for you. Western Alabama, this threat for you in Western Alabama is going to be greatest right around now, to be honest. Depends on exactly where you are in the state. But for a lot of Western Alabama, these storms are moving in right now out of Mississippi. And you can actually see our tornado warnings pretty clearly here moving through Mississippi. And especially the central portion of Alabama, the west central Alabama, that's where our threats are greatest right now. Looks like, by the way, we did just get another confirmed tornado, so we're going to take a look at that. It is in Mississippi, heading towards So-So. We've covered this one earlier, but this is, I'm looking at that storm near Taylorsville. Seeing some people in YouTube chat talk about this one. The storm near Taylorsville, certainly in a place that we have some really big activity. So let's take a look at that now on radar. And this is a confirmed tornado. We've been watching this one for a while. We've been switching on and off of it. And if we look at our velocity, it's a bit of a messy look on velocity, but there's no doubt there's rotation in this storm. If there is a tornado, I'm inclined to say it would likely be somewhere right around here. And we can take a look at our reflectivity. That is where the hook is. So yeah, that's where it should be. So by Hebron or Abron, however you pronounce that, that is where we're looking at a potential tornado. So this is becoming a pretty serious situation. Those of you guys in Ohio, by the way, and I see you in YouTube chat too, by Ohio State, near Ashland, Ohio, the threat will increase later tonight, but you're going to be okay out there. The threat is not very high. It's a low threat in Ohio tonight. So I know Ohio had a higher threat as of yesterday, but the threat is much lower. So if you guys are in Ohio, you should be on alert, but the threat is lower end right now. We're looking at what appears to be a tornado. This could be some debris showing up that I'm looking at here on my radar, but we certainly have what is very, very likely. Actually, it is confirmed. So this is a tornado on the ground right now, moving in the direction of So-So, Mississippi. You can see, very clearly there, right by Hebron or Hebron. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but you can see it on the map here. This is moving to the north and east. So towns like Gitano, Soso, Amy, Moss. These are some towns I was calling out earlier. Hopefully you were able to get to your safe place if you're out there. But this is in a spot where we do certainly have a very high threat for a tornado in the next 15 minutes. So you can see in this warning, this storm is passing between Taylorsville and Soso, Mississippi. So if anybody's out there, you do need to be heading down to your safe place if you aren't there already, because it looks like we do have a tornado on the ground. Gitano, Stringer, and Moss are all areas that may be impacted by this. I might go and see if I can find any information on the internet. We certainly have a lot of people storm chasing out here today, and they've been providing updates. By the way, if you guys are just tuning in, I do want to say that, like I said, if you're just tuning in, I am covering these storms on YouTube and TikTok. So if you're on TikTok and I'm not seeing your questions, trust me, I'm doing my best. But if I'm not, you can always head on over to YouTube and ask your questions there. I'll probably see them a little quicker. I'm Tucker Weather on YouTube as well. The lunar eclipse, I can say, is not a cause for this. Tennessee, like we said, we were looking at a tornado warning in Murfreesboro earlier. That tornado warning in Murfreesboro is actually not the only one now. We just got a new tornado warning in Tennessee. So we're going to go take a look at that. It is by Lynchburg and Tullahoma. And this is in southern Tennessee. Then we're going to get back to our tornado warning storm that we're watching right now. So again, by Lynchburg, Tullahoma, we do have a tornado warning storm here. You can't see too much on our radar. There is a little bit of, looks like there's a hook by Fayetteville. And this is going to continue to move by Lynchburg and Estill Springs. So I'll call out a few towns that this will be passing by so that you know if you're in the way of this. Tennessee's threat is increasing right now, especially in Middle Tennessee. This threat is increasing. Gaddstown, Beach Hill, Brownington, Winchester Springs, Eastbrook, Kaywood, Tullahoma, Plainview Heights, Estill Springs, Tara Estates, Capitol Hill. Those are all places that may be impacted by a potential tornado in Tennessee right now. Not a confirmed tornado, but there is potential. We also have our storm near Murfreesboro, which is still near Christiana. Looks like our radar maybe updating a little slower out here right now, but we do have, again, a potential tornado that is moving to the south and east of Murfreesboro. So if you live south or east of Murfreesboro, you should be in your safe place now, and just, staying in that safe place, waiting for the storm to pass. You got about 15 minutes before you can come out, so stay where you are if you're out there. Our storm I was talking about earlier in Alabama near Coker, still looking very menacing. You can see there is a lot of lightning on this, and that is quite the rotation signature. So this storm clearly is ranking up, so to speak, and I want to keep a very close eye on this one in particular. I've been watching this one. This honestly has had my eye for the longest out of any storms that are out there right now. It is on its own. It is producing a lot of lightning, so that updraft is very active. Every storm here is in a really good environment for producing, and this one just has a lot of runway as it continues to move to the northeast. So this is a spot that we need to watch very, very closely. Some of the areas that would be impacted by this, by the way, like I said before, we're talking about areas that are near Tuscaloosa, primarily to the west and north. This storm would be reaching towns like Holman, Elrod, Buhl, Shirley, Samantha, Wyndham Springs, all in the next half hour. Especially Holman, Elrod, and Buhl, you do not have time. You have to be in your safe place right now. It is crossing the highway out here. So Holman, Elrod, Buhl, this storm is headed right where you guys are, and it is very likely that we have a tornado trying to touch down right now or on the ground. I can't confirm anything at this moment, but it is certainly a powerful storm, and it is rotating quite vigorously. So that is what we're concerned about here in Alabama right now. By the way, if you guys are just tuning in here, whether you're watching on YouTube, and I'll take a look at some of these questions. We got more on YouTube. Whether you're watching on YouTube or TikTok, I am a meteorologist, so consider following and subscribing. You're going to get good weather information from me always. And I have experience tracking tornado outbreaks. I work on TV as well. I've tracked them on TV. I've tracked them online like this. Let's see. Nothing going wrong in Ohio right now. Let me take a look at Bridgeport, Alabama. I'll get you an update on Bridgeport, Alabama. That's a question that came into YouTube chat here. So let's see what we got in Bridgeport. Just Just kidding. All right, so Bridgeport, Alabama, in the north, in the far north and eastern side of the state of Alabama right now, I don't see anything that's suggestive of imminent threats, but we certainly do have to be watching over the next few hours as these storms continue to move that direction. So you're not looking at anything imminently, but the threat will be increasing as we get into the next few hours. As we get into the evening, the threat's going to be highest out there by Bridgeport, Alabama. We are still looking at our storm that is near Coker, between Coker and Gordo. Now, I do want to take a look again at our velocity, and this storm, actually, there are two areas that could be producing tornadoes right now. There are two areas of rotation, 1 and 2. I'm highlighting them for you guys right here. We have one right by Holman, and we have a second one that is going to be moving towards Buhl. I can't say that they are certainly producing tornadoes, either of them. The rotation near Holman looks a lot more convincing. But there are two areas where we may have tornadoes being produced, as there are actually two different hooks. So this storm is certainly a bit complex. Looks like it may be occluding here. And we actually do have debris, so we should be able to confirm this storm actually at this point. Just to the west of Holman, that looks to me like a debris signature here. I'm switching to our debris tracker, which you can see right there. That lighter blue spot, that lighter green spot in the midst of red coloration, that is debris, and it is just to the west of Holman, Alabama. So right by Falls Drive, County Road 30, Ridgecrest Road, those are areas in Alabama where this likely tornado is impacting right now. So it does appear we do have a tornado on the ground. It is right by Holman, Alabama. I mean, literally just to the west of town. This is continuing to move to the northwest. Our latest radar scan just came in, and it is still a very strong couplet. You can see the red and green colors side by side. That's our radar telling us, hey, we got wind going two different directions very fast, side by side. You know what that means? It means it's rotating, it's spinning. You likely have a tornado, and it is spinning counterclockwise too. So that is a sign of a tornado on radar. And you can see, again, there is where we have our likely tornado on the ground. This, of course, is warned. It has just been confirmed by the National Weather Service, by the way. So this storm out here moving into the areas like Echola, Shirley, Brownville, Montgomery Lakes, Alabama, Wynwood, Gorgas. These are areas that you need to be on high alert because it appears you have a tornado headed at you right now. So that is our storm that is just to the west of Tuscaloosa. We've been talking about it for a while. That is something that we need to keep a very close eye on over these next few hours. I'm taking a look at our other confirmed storm near Soso, as we've been looking at the potential for a tornado out there for a while. This is between Taylorsville and Soso in Mississippi. This is our active situation. It is technically a confirmed tornado, although that was from a little bit earlier, so it's hard to say right now if it is still producing. There is a lot of rotation. I'm not seeing anything convincing personally that we do have a tornado ongoing, although there is still a vague debris signature. So certainly if this is on the ground, what we're looking at is a tornado that would be moving near Stringer, Mississippi. And continuing downstream here, guys, if you live, let's see if we can get some towns. If you live near Waldrop, Acme, Paulding, Mississippi, Rose Hill, Mississippi, these are areas where you should be in your safe place, and they did just, in fact, extend the tornado warning. So if you live in any of those places I just called out, you probably just got a emergency alert. You should have, at least on your phone, on your device, as this tornado warning has been extended, and it does include Meridian, Mississippi as well. So Meridian, Mississippi included in this new tornado warning, and you can kind of see that out there on the top and right of your screen. So Meridian, Mississippi in this new tornado warning. Tuscaloosa itself, I'm not expecting us in Tuscaloosa to have any direct impacts from any storms right now. The storm I was talking about, it's near Tuscaloosa. It's to the west. It does not look like it will go through Tuscaloosa. It will not, at least. But there are more storms behind this that do have the potential for that to occur. The National Weather Service is saying that this tornado is still confirmed to be on the ground. So we do have a confirmed tornado. It is continuing to move to the north and east and across portions of Mississippi. I'm looking at this as it tracks. Again, I'm going to put a tracker on this for you guys, actually, so I can just call out some towns and you know exactly where this is going to be. Our storm moving just under 60 miles per hour to the northeast. So ready, listen closely, okay? This is our storm that is currently producing a tornado. It is Waldrop, Folk, Kelowna, Gridley, Paulding, Pachuta, Pennantly, Orange, Rosehill, Beatrice, Watubbee, Stonewall, Enterprise, Basic, Roy, Chunky, Meehan, Savoy. All those places I just named, you are in the direct path of this tornado at some point over the next 30 minutes. You have to be in your safe place right now. You really can't wait on this one. You got to go there now. That is where you're going to be safe, and there really aren't any other safe places. You got to get underground if you can, or at least to the lowest floor of your house, to an interior room. Let's see here. I've seen a few questions about areas like Huntsville. That's like the third or fourth question I've seen, so let's get to that. Huntsville, Alabama, at this moment, we're not seeing any imminent threat, but what I will say is that we certainly have more storms on the way out that direction, and as storms continue to move to the direction of Huntsville, I can't rule out the potential for a tornado at some point in the next hour or so. If we don't get a tornado in the next hour or so, doesn't mean the threat is over, but the threat will have largely decreased, because that's where we're seeing the most potent storms begin to approach right now. So be on alert over the next hour for sure. Atlanta, I'm seeing some questions about Atlanta. My concern with Atlanta is more or less the potential for tornadoes overnight, or at least late tonight. I'm thinking like midnight, 1 a.m. By the way, I'm also looking at our storm near Murfreesboro. I can see pretty clearly we have a pretty good hook there. It's moving towards Woodbury, Tennessee. This is not a confirmed tornado, but I would be in, for sure in your safe place. You should be in your safe place out here, but we have a potential tornado. It's near Cateston, Culpeper. It looks like it'll pass just to the west of Woodbury, Tennessee. Brysonville, Hardscrabble, Pleasant Ridge, all places here in Tennessee. These are all to the east of Murfreesboro. You may be used to passing these on the highway. These are places where if there is a tornado, it would be passing through that area right now. Our tornado would be right by Cateston and Culpeper in Tennessee. It continues to move to the northeast. It's going to reach Pleasant Ridge here in the next 5 minutes or so. So if you're in those areas in Tennessee, you know where they are, you got friends or family out there, you got to make sure they're aware. If you could, give them a call, be like, hey, I'm listening to this guy. He's a meteorologist. He's saying, watch out, You guys can save lives too, honestly. Getting this information, you should be thinking about yourself, but you should also be thinking about people who who may be impacted by these storms. You guys play a really important role here too. We have another tornado warning in southern Tennessee. I'm not seeing anything suggestive of a tornado right now, but a lot of wind without a doubt. I'm going to switch us back to our tornado warning that is outside Tuscaloosa, like I was talking about before. I'm going to get some information on this, and right now it is currently moving still to the north and east. It is still a confirmed tornado. Our storm is still producing a lot of lightning. There is 1-inch hail out here as well. It is moving to the northeast at 45 miles per hour, so it's a reasonably quick mover. You can see it at this moment to the north of Tuscaloosa, actually to the northwest to be more specific. The rotation does not look as good as I take a look at that right now, but what we're looking at is a storm that will continue to move northeast, and it's in a good environment. So even though the rotation is not as impressive at this exact moment, it is still very notable. It is certainly spinning still, and it could kick up at any second another tornado if it is not already producing one right now. I'll also mention there is another area of rotation too in this storm. It's actually to the north and east of Gordo. Can you see that? There's another red and blue couplet out there. There are two areas here that we could be looking at tornadoes pretty close to each other right now. They're both moving north and east. So I wouldn't be shocked if we have a potential tornado near Brownville and Montgomery Lakes right now in Alabama, and a second tornado near our Nerdra subdivision, Mount Olive, Thorndale, Carrollwood Estates, and Rising Tide are all areas that could be impacted here too. They just downgraded this warning from confirmed to radar indicated, which makes a lot of sense to me, just given that I simply don't see the guaranteed tornado in there, but there is the potential for two different spots. All right, switching back to our radar, and this is getting a lot more menacing now. Remember that storm we were talking about near Soso? This is becoming a lot more serious, and I am looking at an area where we do likely, almost definitely have a tornado on the ground right now. It would be right towards the southern end of those bright blue and red colors. Some towns that are nearby are Stringers being impacted by very strong winds. potential tornado in that area. It's moving towards Blue Ridge and Vernon in Mississippi. Waldrop, Paulding. We also have Orange and Rose Hill, Mississippi, that may be impacted by a potential tornado here. You can see we do have our strong mesocyclone, those blue and red colors side by side. And this eventually is moving in the direction of Meridian, Mississippi, which is a more populated area. So if you're in Meridian or you live near Meridian, you should be getting everything you have that you might need for about a half hour to an hour, and you should be going down to that safe place. It's still about 20 to 30 minutes away from you, but it is moving in your direction pretty quickly. Enterprise, Chunky, Stonewall, also some bigger places that may be impacted by this as well. So we're looking at this storm in a lot of different areas. I'll take a look at, let's see. I'll take a look at Florence, Alabama here in a second. Let me see where Florence is. I believe I know where it is, but let me double check that. So taking a look at Florence, Alabama right now, we did have some strong storms that moved through there earlier. With Florence, that threat temporarily, similar to what you guys are seeing out there in Huntsville, or what I was talking about with Huntsville, your threat at this moment is not imminent, but there are some strong storms that will be reaching Florence in the next hour. So you should be on alert and you should be ready for a potential tornado because this is an environment where something could spin up pretty quickly. So out there in Florence, that's what we got to look out for. Let's see. I'm reading chat now. By the way, if you guys have just tuned in, if you're new here, if you haven't watched one of my streams before, I am a meteorologist. I promise you I will give you the best weather information. So make sure, if you're not already following, be sure to follow. We will continue to track severe weather. I'll be doing lives throughout severe weather season, if you will. And I'll be back here with more. Of course, we're going to keep going here for a while, but I'll be back here with more as we get later and later into the season. Now, also worth mentioning, if you guys are watching here on TikTok, at least, I am also streaming here on YouTube, and I am going to see your questions a lot quicker if you find me on YouTube at Tucker Weather. If you navigate over there, at least, there's a lot less people in chat over there. I am trying to read as many of your questions as possible, but that's where I will probably see them quicker, just so you know. Let's see, Northport, Alabama, Georgia. I'll take a look at Northport, and then I'll give you guys in Georgia a general update because I've seen a lot of you guys asking about Georgia, so hang tight for me there. I'm taking a look at Northport real quick. Northport, Alabama, great question because that is right by Tuscaloosa. Good news for you in Northport is that this storm that we've been watching, actually it's a different storm. Let's move over to it. So the storm in Northport, Alabama, I am less concerned about for Northport itself. You are just outside of this. You could be looking at a tornado that's within 8 miles of you, but it's not going to hit you. It's going to stay to the north. So if you're in Northport, you're okay. But if you have any friends who live, a 15-minute drive northwest of you, they're the ones who are facing a more serious situation at this moment. For you guys in Georgia, just in general, I wish I could say I wish I could say this would actually die down before it reaches you guys, but the thing is, we have so much energy in the environment today that it is very likely that this storm is going to continue. These storms, I should say, are going to continue for a while tonight. My concern with Georgia is specifically that the threat for severe weather is going to be largely, midnight and later. If you're on the eastern side of Georgia, now that's where these storms could break down quite a bit. The threat is more low to moderate out there. But if you're in the western side of Georgia, that's where the threat's still very high. And if you're out there, again, this threat's going to come after dark. So what I'm going to say to you now is that you should have a way to get warnings. And beyond that, however you get your warnings, it should be able to wake you up. And so one of the ways that I would recommend doing that is if you can get the emergency alerts on your phone. If you go into settings, you can find emergency alerts on your phone. The important thing to do is to make sure those are turned on, and then make sure your ringer is on at night. So if there is a warning and it's issued and you're asleep and your ringer's on, your phone should make some noise and hopefully wake you up. So that's the important thing in Georgia. Just make sure you have something that can wake you up. Otherwise, there's no harm in sleeping in a safe place. If you got a room on the lowest floor of your house, kind of on the inside, you can do that too. But that is what I would be doing tonight because these storms are going to come pretty late out there. Let's see. Continuing to track, again, our storm that is moving to the north of Tuscaloosa. You can see pretty clearly on our radar loops here. We've had a couple different areas of rotation where those red and green colors are really bright and side by side. me see what other questions I got here. Auburn, Alabama. Yeah, I got you in Auburn. I'll take a look at that too. I saw you asking that question earlier. Sorry for making you wait. Auburn, Alabama, of course. Got a lot of people out there right now. I know we got schools in Tuscaloosa and Auburn, of course. Auburn's in a place where that threat's going to arrive much later tonight as well. So there's no imminent threat right now. Storms haven't quite made it there yet. But as we get towards, around like 11, midnight, 1 a.m., that's when you really need to be thinking about, keeping a closer eye on the radar. Let's see what we got here. Hattiesburg, Birmingham. Let me take a look at Hattiesburg and Birmingham since those are bigger places. Answer your questions. We're going to keep our radar looping on that storm near Tuscaloosa, but I'm going to be looking at radar here and answering those questions for you. Birmingham right now is interesting because the storm we actually have looping on radar, and I'll zoom out just a little bit. You'll be able to see Birmingham on the edge of your screen. This storm is likely to pass to the west and north of Birmingham, assuming it keeps going. And I do think this storm has legs. I do think it's going to keep going for a while. So while Birmingham may not be impacted directly, it is some areas not too far to the north and west that could be impacted by a tornado here. I'm looking at places like, let's see what we got here. Dora and Hanceville, Sipsey, let's see, even Warrior and Hayden, not too far north of Birmingham, are not out of the woods on this one. And this storm that is going to be moving that direction. We're going to be watching this one, I believe, for quite some time to come here. It does look like it looks like one of the more dominant storms out there today for the most part. Northern Kentucky, the storm threat decreases a lot as those storms get out your way. And Hattiesburg, by the way, it's a good question. So Hattiesburg right now is just getting into some of our storms on the southern end of this threat, and those storms on the southern end do certainly have tornado potential, but I don't see an imminent tornado threat. Hattiesburg, you got about 90 minutes before this risk is over. So I'm going to keep watching for you out there, but I do not see any imminent threats out there for you in Hattiesburg at this moment, luckily. But we will be keeping on watching that. In addition to our storm that we've been watching out by Tuscaloosa, we have another storm that has the potential to produce a tornado right now. We've been talking about this one for a while. It's in eastern Mississippi, and it is moving towards western Georgia. But I'm going to switch back to this now, and it is moving in the direction of Enterprise, Meridian, Stonewall, Pachuta. These are areas that may be impacted by this potential tornado producer. Meridian is right in the path of this in Mississippi too, by the way. So that's a spot that we will be watching, especially over the next 20 minutes as this gets closer. If you guys are naming some smaller places, it'd be really helpful if you give me like a bigger city that they're nearby. I'll be able to look it up a lot quicker. I am switching back to our storm that is now northwest of Tuscaloosa. And this storm is rotating more vigorously now. You can see that those red and green colors side by side. That is where our storm would be trying to produce a tornado, right in the middle of those. Would be right by Rising Tide, Lake Cove. Those places are where a tornado could very well be ongoing right now as this rotation tightens up a lot. North Riviera, also a spot where we could see this tornado impacting. So we're looking like right by North River Country Club. If you live within 5 minutes of that, that's where we're looking at a potential tornado right now, right by Rising Tide. If this is on the ground, it'd be going right through Rising Tide, and this is not a great look. It's pretty close to Lake Tuscaloosa, if you know where that is. So if you have anyone out there, that is where our tornado may be right now. This is not a confirmed tornado. Let me see if I can find any debris. I don't see any debris, luckily, but that is a very scary looking storm. I'm going to say that much, and I would not be surprised if we have a tornado on the ground right now, or at least very close to being on the ground. Like I said, we're looking at areas just to the north of Tuscaloosa, right by Lake Tuscaloosa at this moment. Windham Springs and Whiteston also are some places that will be impacted by this storm not too long from now as it continues moving north and east. Looks like we just got an update on the warning. It is still just radar indicated, not confirmed, but I'm telling you right now, I would not be shocked if this does get confirmed at some point. Right by Lake Tuscaloosa, we're seeing this rotation. So again, things very active out there as well. Storms are going north right now, but they're weakening as they get into Kentucky and Ohio. For those of you guys asking, They are not in Kentucky and Ohio yet, but I've seen some people asking about that. Let's see here. They will not be weakening as much as they get into places like Georgia and Tennessee. They will still be very strong out there, and we still very much have a tornado threat. And so for that reason, if you live in those places, you should be at least on high alert through much of tonight as well. I'm zooming in on this one. Again, it does look like, in my opinion, I can't confirm it, but you absolutely have to be in your safe place if you're in this storm north of Tuscaloosa. If you know anyone who lives north of Tuscaloosa, give them a call. If you know anyone near Lake Tuscaloosa, I'm very concerned about this storm out here right now, as that is where we're looking at, I believe, a likely tornado at this point. Windham Springs is in the path of this. Wiley, Three Forks. There does not seem to be a lot out here. Big Yellow Creek, that's good news. State Road 69 happens to be one of the places that is like right in the middle of this as well, by the way. So that's where we're looking at for the potential of a tornado north of Tuscaloosa. Still watching our storm that is in Mississippi as well, moving in the direction of Enterprise and Meridian. So if you live near Enterprise or Meridian, Mississippi, we got to watch that as well. And we do also still have a tornado warning on our storm that is now to the east of Woodbury, Tennessee. Though if you're near Woodbury, Tennessee, that threat does look like it is on the lower end now. It looks like more of a damaging wind threat. So we're going to keep on this storm near Lake Tuscaloosa, because this is where I have the greatest concern about an imminent tornado threat as it continues moving northeast. Luckily, it seems to be in a pretty quiet area, so hopefully it stays that way. But very active, our weather right now. By the way, for those of you guys who are just tuning in here, I am a meteorologist, so I'm going to give you the best weather information I can give you. Consider following for that reason. There's a lot of people on the internet who give you some bad info, I mean, to say the least. But I can promise you I'll give you the best out here. Also, for those of you guys on TikTok, if you prefer watching on YouTube, I am also streaming this on YouTube at this moment. And if you move on over to YouTube, at least, the questions are coming in a lot slower. So I'll be able to see your questions much quicker. I'm at Tucker Weather on YouTube. I also post very regular full weather breakdowns. So if you happen to be someone who likes watching YouTube, who uses YouTube, that's a really good resource for you guys as well. I will always be here on TikTok too, but YouTube's it's a little bit easier for this severe weather coverage, and I will see your questions much quicker on there as well. And if you have any questions I'm not getting to, you can find me at Tucker Weather on Instagram as well, and I can answer your questions after we wrap up the live stream too. So if you have questions about the severe weather tomorrow, that's a good place where you can find me as well. But we're continuing to watch the storms right now. I'm keeping us on our storm that is north of Tuscaloosa. It is moving through some more sparsely populated areas right now, but it is our strongest storm out there from what I've seen, and it is in an environment, I'll actually switch to our regular reflectivity. It's in an environment where it is really all on its own, and it has the potential to really work pretty effectively with the environment it has, because it's not really competing for resources. So you can see that moving in the direction of West Jefferson right now. That's one of the places that is likely in line next for our potential tornado here. So West Jefferson still a little ways out, not in the tornado warning, but I'm watching that area pretty closely, as it's likely to make a pass to the west and then north of Birmingham. Let's see, seeing some more questions about where these storms are headed later on. So I'm going to pull open, as we wait for a radar update, I'm going to open up a map depicting our severe weather outlook, so you guys can see what's happening next here. And as for that question from Reagan, Cincinnati, do we see any serious threats? Well, you can see right here, Cincinnati actually happens to be, luckily, in a level 1 severe weather risk. The severe weather risk was downgraded out there because these storms do look like they're going to lose some steam as they move farther and farther to the north. So because of that, again, we are looking at the potential for some strong and severe storms, but it's likely to just be a wind threat, very, very low tornado threat out there. Can't say it's 0% chance, but if you're out there, the threat is not particularly large. So Cincinnati, I would expect storms late tonight, but the severe weather threat is seemingly pretty low. I wouldn't worry too much, but you should at least be aware of what's going on. That's going to be later at night here. Huntsville, Alabama, you're in a pretty high risk for severe weather here, level 4 out of 5 risk. These storms are all headed your direction right now still, so there's still some time for them to get to you, and you still have to wait and see what happens, and we'll be watching these for you as well. Let me see if Athens, Alabama is there. Louisiana, I'll say in general, I don't know exactly where, and Valley, Alabama too. So I'm going to look at Athens, then Pearl River. I'll say this about Alabama at least, or Louisiana at least. If you're not near New Orleans or to the south and east, the threat is over. So if you live to the west of Baton Rouge, you're all good out there. Let me take a look at Athens, Alabama. I'm going to switch back to our radar here as well. And we're going to take a look at Athens for you so we know where things are at and where they are headed next. Still looking at this storm that we've been tracking for a while as it moves through north and almost central Alabama. But let me look up Athens for you so I can give you an update on if it's in the path here. That is Athens, Georgia. And for those of you guys in Georgia, by the way, it's the western side of Georgia where this threat is pretty high. If you're on the eastern side, it's not too high, at least not until tomorrow morning. Athens, again, right by Huntsville. I don't see an imminent threat in Athens right now, but we are going to be watching as the threat is certainly not over, and there are still a lot of strong storms headed that way at this moment. Looks like we get an update on our tornado warning in Tennessee as well, so we're going to get to that in just a minute. All right, let me get an idea. Let me take a look at Pearl River for you. The threat may very well be over in Pearl River. By the way, do we have anyone who was on here yesterday? I'm just kind of curious if anyone was with us yesterday. We tracked severe weather for about 6 hours yesterday. So Pearl River, not out of the threat yet, by the way. I just found it on my map. The thing with Pearl River right now is that there are going to be storms out there, but the tornado threat luckily appears to be low. The storms are not very mature out there, which is good news. But you are going to be getting into some wind, some rain, some lightning. It just doesn't look like it's going to be anything significant for you. At least that's what it appears on radar right now, and we'll keep on watching it for you just to be sure. Going to take us to our new tornado warning. You can see it open right here, right by, let's see, McMinnville, Tennessee. Again, this is a storm where if there was a tornado, it would be embedded in the line of rain. This would likely be a weaker and quicker hitting tornado. I'm looking at a couple places where it could be. McMinnville is in a spot where if there was a tornado, it would be headed that direction, as well as Bluff Springs, Green Hill, Belk. These don't seem to be very big areas, but McMinnville, if you live in that area near Centertown, if you live in Doyle or Spencer here in Tennessee, that is where you do need to be on alert as we are looking at a current tornado warning out there. So that's been extended, actually. I also want to get a look at our storm by Meridian, Mississippi. And one of the things that we're seeing right now are these storms are becoming a little mucked up. There's a lot of precipitation ongoing right now, and that can actually lessen the tornado threat. And they're a little bit messy, and we have to wait and see. If these storms end up staying in a line of storms like we're seeing right now, and in a linear form, we could see a lower tornado threat than previously expected, which is not a bad thing by any means. If you're out by Meridian, we've been tracking a storm that was confirmed to be producing a tornado. Right now, it does not look like it is. So our dominant storm remains this one that is north of Tuscaloosa. There is actually, luckily, for the first time since I hopped on here, there's no storm I can say right now that really looks like it's producing any type of tornadic activity. Of course, our storm out here, still north of Tuscaloosa, is the best candidate for any kind of tornado occurring. You can see that hook on it pretty clearly, but I'm not seeing actually anything that really is a guarantee. Nothing like that at all. All right, let's see. Valley, Alabama. I forgot to get you in Valley, Alabama. Let me get that for you. Valley, Alabama. So again, we're getting a little bit of a break in some of the more active storms. I don't think this is going to last super long, so I'm going to get to as many of your questions here in just a moment as possible. I'm looking at Valley, Alabama. So Valley, I see that right in the border of Georgia. Your threat's going to increase later tonight, likely by around 10, 11 o'clock. That threat increases in Valley. This question coming off the YouTube chat. I don't expect you're going to be impacted by anything significant until we get later tonight. So wait and watch out there. And if you have any questions as we get later into the stream, I'll be watching that area too, especially. Okay, I got a general question. Do you need to go to college to be a meteorologist? Yes, the answer is yes. I went to Penn State. Nah, you ain't cooked in Valley. You're okay. We'll be watching though. Yeah, I went to Penn State. I got my meteorology degree. So if those of you guys are just tuning in, yeah, it's a lot of calculus, it's a lot of physics, a lot of chemistry. Believe it or not, it's not just standing in front of a camera and talking or looking at radar. It's a lot of math and work and stuff like that. So yeah, I have it. My degree is in meteorology. I work professionally as a meteorologist on air. And if you guys, are looking for somebody, if you're looking for somebody reliable, trustworthy for weather information, I'm not going to hype things. I'm going to tell it to you the way it is. You're going to get good weather information from me. So like I said before, consider following if you're on TikTok. Consider subscribing if you're watching at Tucker Weather on YouTube. Because I can promise you I'm going to give you some good information that you can trust, and I'm never going to be one to hype things up. I do this because I want to make a positive difference, and I never got into meteorology to make money, so I'm really not trying to hype things up because that's just not why I do what I do. You know what I'm saying? So we'll be doing our best to keep you informed and safe here. That's the most important thing. Saw a question, is Hattiesburg out of the woods yet? Not quite. You got a severe thunderstorm moving in Hattiesburg right now. I'm looking at it. Quarter-sized hail, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. There may be some rotation on this. It's not very strong, but in Hattiesburg, you should be inside somewhere, and you should have a safe place nearby where you can go in case it does get tornado warned. And I'm not saying it will, but there is at least potential for that to happen here. Let's see some of these other questions we got here. Let's see. So yes, Hattiesburg's still at risk. There have been several tornadoes today. We got a lot of people just tuning in right now. We got several tornadoes out there today. We don't have any tornadoes at this moment that are being produced, luckily. So we have a little bit of a break at this moment, but we are continuing to watch as the threat stays pretty high later this afternoon and into the evening. I'm seeing some more of your questions about Ohio. We got a lot of Ohio people. Drop an OH in chat if you're in Ohio. I'm very surprised by the number of Ohio people we got on here. The good news for you guys in Ohio is that while there are going to be storms as we head later into this evening, I'm not expecting Ohio is going to be directly impacted by the worst of these storms. You're going to get more of the leftovers, so to speak. So you have the potential to see some strong winds. There is a very low tornado threat, but more or less you're just going to get some strong thunderstorms, some lightning, some thunder, some heavy rain. Let me take a look at Princeton, by the way, for you, because I see Princeton in chat a lot. But Ohio and Kentucky, the same thing. Kentucky, the storm threat's a bit higher, but we're not looking at what will be as big a threat as these areas farther south. Taking a look at Princeton right now, Alabama at least. Princeton's threat is, you're right by Huntsville. Princeton's threat is going to be increasing over the next few hours as some of these stronger storms move that direction. But right now, we actually only have 3 active tornado warnings. We've covered all of them, and we're keeping a close eye on this guy moving north of Tuscaloosa right now. So good news is that we are in a bit of a lull, actually. Our tornadic potential seems to be slightly lower at this moment than it has been for pretty much the entire day so far, as these storms are struggling a little bit to really get their act together on their own. A couple storms do have the potential to produce still, though. So we're not out of the woods by any means, but in this exact moment, it is at least a little bit quieter out there, and we should be thankful for that because, who knows how long this is going to last. I'm going to try to get some more information actually on these storms. Just see what people are saying out here. Let's see. Tylertown, Mississippi. There is significant damage in Tylertown, Mississippi. Let's see here. We are still looking at active tornado warnings, but there doesn't seem to be anything confirmed right now. But Tylertown, Mississippi, it looks as though a pretty significant tornado went through. It actually looks as though perhaps 2 tornadoes may have gone through Tylertown today, in fact, which is pretty surprising. Let's see here. I'm looking at more information I'm looking for current forecast discussions, see what people are seeing out there right now. But Tylertown, Mississippi, the damage I'm seeing is pretty bad. It looks as though there may have been 2 tornado strikes, not even just a single one out there. Let's see. A lot of the storms right now, too, they're becoming rain-wrapped. So what happens when storms get rain-wrapped is they get wrapped around in precipitation, and you can't really see through them because the rain basically blocks what would be going on. Taylorsville, it looks as though we had a tornado in Taylorsville, Mississippi as well. So Taylorsville, Tylertown, those are two areas where we have had confirmed tornadoes today. Certainly it looks like some of the bigger ones have been in those spots. We're continuing to watch as we still have strong storms moving through. Certainly this would be more of a... This is not actually a capping issue. The cap may be too weak, which would be the issue on this one because there's so much popping up here. Still some storms that could be producing tornadoes, but nothing at this moment. So I'm gonna start answering more of these questions here on the TikTok. So let's see. No, Fort Worth, Texas, you're in the clear. Texas had some crazy fire weather yesterday, but Texas is in the clear now, luckily. Let's see. I wish I could say that was true. I don't see any sign that it is going to miss you in Birmingham. I'm looking at Birmingham right now, and the storm that we have on the screen right now near Birmingham, that's going to miss you to the west and then to the north. But there are more storms on the way in out of Mississippi that we definitely need to be watching because those storms will eventually get into the Birmingham area. So I want you to be careful out there, and we still got to watch for at least several more hours before you're out of the threat. But if you guys have any questions, I'm going to do my best to answer them like that. And like I said, I'm also streaming right now on YouTube as well. So if I don't get to your questions in the TikTok chat, I will be getting to a lot more of your questions on YouTube just because there's less people asking in there. So if you're looking for your questions to be answered quicker, check out Tucker Weather on YouTube. I will just happen to see them there a lot quicker. Lumberton, Mississippi, and I'm glad you asked that. I was about to go back to Mississippi. I'll say Lumberton itself. That threat is the storms are still getting in there, so it's not an imminent threat. But we actually did just get a tornado warning in Louisiana. We got another tornado warning in Mississippi as well. So this has been re-upped, if you will. Our tornado warning, remember that storm we were talking about near Enterprise, Stonewall? Kind of looked like it was falling apart. Well, now we're looking at that beginning to come back up again. So we're taking a closer look here at Mississippi. Then we're going to get to Louisiana, where we have another tornado warning. And wow, this thing really has kicked up quickly, guys. So we're going 0 to 100 pretty fast here in Mississippi. If you guys are in Mississippi, please watch this closely. Even if you're not, you should be watching this because this storm is going to be headed into Alabama as well, and eventually these storms will reach Tennessee too. But we have a confirmed tornado once again. So this went from 100 to 0, and then 0 to 100 again really quickly. And with this storm, we are looking at a tornado right now where you have those blue, or rather you have those red and green colors side by side, that area that I have circled. That is where a tornado would be going right now. It looks like it may have just moved through Paulding, Mississippi, so it may have just picked up really quickly. And Paulding could have just been impacted by a tornado. I'm going to put a tracker on this because this is moving into more populated areas, and some of those areas include, as I move this out here, some of those areas include Orange, Enterprise, Basic. If you're in Orange, Enterprise, or Basic, you have to be in your safe place now. If you know someone who lives there, give them a call. Make sure they're aware because it looks as though we have a tornado on the ground moving towards them at this second. Savoy, Meehan, Graham, Arunde, Lost Gap, these are all in Mississippi. Savannah Grove, 0. Eventually this will reach Meridian. This is about 30 minutes outside of Meridian, so it is moving towards Meridian, which I know is a much more populated area. And if this remains on its current path, it really would go right through Meridian, or at least right to the western side of the city. So we're looking at this storm. It looks pretty significant, and it is continuing to move right in the direction of Meridian, Mississippi. So we need to keep a very, very close eye on this. We also did just get a new warning. It is in Louisiana. I know someone was asking about this area earlier. Wow, it looks like we have a tornado on the ground here in Mississippi as well. And by the way, with that Meridian storm, I'm looking on a separate radar. There is debris that just got kicked up. Radar just scanned debris out there on that Mississippi storm. So that is certainly back and going. Our storm right here in Louisiana, this looks like it is a tornado on the ground as well. This is a tornado vortex signature, which is what we call it. It is in Madisonville, Louisiana. Madisonville, Louisiana, you are likely, this is not looking good, guys. Looks like Madisonville, Louisiana is being impacted right now directly by a tornado moving through the southern end of the town. It looks like it'll move right through Holtonville, and this thing is continuing to move to the north and east. So for areas like Covington, that Covington right now may be directly impacted by this as it moves northeast. So this is a tornado on the ground right now near Madisonville. Hasn't been confirmed by the National Weather Service, but this is, this is textbook what you would look for when you're looking for a tornado on the ground. So like I said, Madisonville moving in the direction of Covington right now. Some of the places in between, you got Pinecrest Drive, you got St. Tammany Parish Hospital, you got Claiborne Hill. So this is a tornado on radar right here in Louisiana. So these two storms just kicked up really quick, and that's the thing with today. We can get into a lull, and then out of nowhere, well, not really out of nowhere. The environment is very prime for severe weather, but it can really ramp up quickly. Is my point here. Looks like we might have just got another new tornado warning, by the way, and this one is for we just did. We got another tornado warning. It is south of that first one we were talking about in Mississippi. This warning is for areas to the south of, or right by Laurel, Ellisville, Sandersville. So again is in this warning. Heidelberg, and we're looking at what is a messier looking storm, and it's very hard to make things out on our velocity. But we are certainly looking at a storm that is capable of producing a tornado. So Laurel, Ellisville, Sandersville, and Heidelberg are in this tornado warning. Same with Quitman, also in this tornado warning. So we need to keep an eye on that too, and we will continue to watch that. Enterprise is near where we would have a potential tornado. It would likely be moving just to the west of Enterprise. So we're taking a look at our storm up here now again, and we're going to be seeing again there is some very strong rotation just to the south and west of Enterprise. I expect this is going to end up passing through the western side of the town. So this is ramping up pretty quickly now. Let's see. Yes, those of you guys who are on, I did get sleep last night. But we are busy, and we are staying busy with these storms as they continue to potentially produce tornadoes throughout today. Give me one moment while I continue to check some more information. Lebanon, Tennessee. If anyone in Tennessee, that threat is going to stay notable as we go through the next several hours, because with Tennessee, the concern is that, you're not going to have as many high-end tornado producers, but there is still going to be a lot of spin in the atmosphere as those storms get towards Tennessee, and that is where we're going to need to keep a close eye on the potential for more numerous tornadoes, for sure. Looking back at our storm in Louisiana, and that certainly does look like a tornado, likely getting towards Covington, Louisiana. And I'm going to switch us also back to our storm. Our tornado warning got extended. That is the one that we were looking at earlier near Tuscaloosa. And while it is confirmed now. Okay, so we're going to jump into that storm now. You guys remember the storm we were talking about for a long while? I was saying this is the one, if something's going to produce, looks like this is going to be the one. Well, looks like it is, in fact, producing now. It is a confirmed tornado. You can see those orange and green colors right by each other. That is our mesocyclone. That's a rotation. And right in the middle of that is where the tornado would be occurring. So it is continuing right now, this storm. We're likely to see a pretty significant hook on it, and we certainly are. There it is. So this storm is continuing to move to the north and east. Parrish, Cordova, Sipsey, Dora also included in this one, where we are looking at the best chance for a tornado right now. Again, I'll circle where we're looking at that hook, and it is moving to the north and east. So Cordova, Sipsey, Dora, all places that could be impacted by a tornado here with this storm. And this is moving to the north and east right now at around 55 miles per hour. So it is a quick-moving storm, and you need to be ready to head to your safe place. Let's see. Sounds like we got tornado sirens on in Lebanon, Tennessee. So I'll take a quick peek on this. I'm going to leave you guys on TikTok on our radar here. On YouTube, we're moving over to Lebanon, Tennessee. And I do see... Let's see. Actually, you know what? I'm kind of surprised there are sirens on in Lebanon, Tennessee, because our one tornadic storm does not seem to be there. So give me a minute while I investigate this one too. Still tracking our storm out here. That is now getting to... This is west of Birmingham right now. It is still looking very strong. Still a very notable hook on this. Our tornado would be right there where I'm circling, and it is continuing to move to the northeast right now, near Parrish, Cordova, and Dora, Alabama. So that is where we have to watch very closely right now for the potential of a tornado, including the potential for a strong tornado out there. I'm looking at Lebanon, Tennessee for you, by the way, and it looks as though with Lebanon, there's no tornado warning, but they may be sounding the sirens for a severe storm, which some areas do. Does not look like a tornado warning out there right now, though, luckily. But this storm out here for sure needs to be watched closely, as we do have a very powerful storm moving through areas to the west of Birmingham. To give you a reference, by the way, I'm going to measure a distance here. This storm is about 30 miles to the west of Birmingham. So if you know where Birmingham is, think of it like a 45-minute drive to the west of Birmingham. So it's not super close, but it is in the vicinity here. Cordova, Sipsey, Dora, these are areas that may be impacted by a potential tornado. So, and for those of you guys who are farther north, closer to Huntsville, something like that, you should be prepared for the potential of a tornado a little bit later. I'm not seeing an imminent threat right now, but these storms are moving in that direction just in general. So for Huntsville, you're in a spot where you definitely need to be prepared if these storms do continue to move that direction, and especially, there will be the potential for tornadoes because the environment is still very primed for them out there. If there is a tornado here, it's hard to say exactly how strong it would be. It can be difficult to tell off of radar, and there is not any specific intensity that I'm measuring on here. I'm looking at our velocity, and it does look like it could be quite strong, but it's impossible for me to say that for sure. So treat every tornado as if it's strong. Get to the basement, get to the lowest floor of your house. If you have an interior room, you want to go in there. The basement's always ideal. The most important thing is to get low in a building, and then beyond that, you want to get to the inside. Just put as much space between you and the top as possible. Those of you guys who are watching on YouTube right now, again, you can see that area I just circled. That is where we'd have a tornado, and you can see it moving to the northeast. It's going to pass between Cordova and Dora, Alabama. Those of you guys on TikTok, again, I know a lot of you guys are asking questions. I'm doing my best to get to all of them. If you have questions that I haven't got to, you can go check me out at Tucker Weather on YouTube, and you'll be able to get your questions seen a lot quicker on there because things are moving a little bit slower on YouTube. So you'll have a lot more visibility on there at Tucker Weather. Check that out. Let's see here. Glad I'm able to help you guys out, though. I'm doing my best on this one. We had a busy night last night covering severe weather, so this is round 2 for us. And certainly it is another very active day, which does not come as a surprise, just given everything that the environment has in store for us. The environment today is one of the most conductive for tornadoes that we've seen in a while. So there is high potential here. I'm actually going to take a look at the storm. I'm going to leave you guys on TikTok on our storm right here in Alabama. I'm going to move on YouTube and take a look at our storm that is currently ongoing in Louisiana. Still looks like we may have a tornado on the ground. Cannot confirm it, but there may be one near Covington, Louisiana, moving in the direction of Abita Springs, if that is how you pronounce that, Abita Springs. And this storm is moving northeast still. So between Covington and Abita Springs in Louisiana, we have the potential for a tornado. And you can see, if you are following here on YouTube, we just got a radar update that there were those green and red colors side by side. Though this storm, it appears the rotation is weakening now. The tornado, if it was being produced, likely occluding, getting sucked back into the storm, being recycled, so to speak, recycled energy. I'm also going to take a look at our storm near Meridian, as this is still labeled as a confirmed tornado. The storm moving near Enterprise, Meridian, Mississippi. That's in a spot where we have seen a tornado producing storm sort of pick up and then slow down a little bit, and kind of pick up and slow down. So we're going to keep an eye on that one too, because it has the potential to produce still, but it's having a hard time keeping a tornado on the ground. It's sort of going back and forth, if you will. Mobile, that threat is going to be greater a little bit later on. We're going to be watching that closely, but at this moment, it is not the highest threat I've seen. So let's see. All right. A little quieter day on the stream today. We had a lot of people on here last night, both YouTube and TikTok. Guessing there are a lot of people maybe who don't have power, actually, with the severe weather we've seen. Hopefully everyone is prepared. Let me take a look at Shelby, Alabama for you. Shelby, Alabama. Also a little tired today, to be honest, after all the covering yesterday. Taking a look at Shelby, Alabama. Okay, I see it. South of Birmingham. Your threat is not over yet today. You still have time. We'll need to keep a close eye on everything that's going on out there, but I do not see any imminent danger out there in Shelby at this time, luckily. So hopefully it stays that way. But Shelby, your threat certainly is not over yet today. I'm just going to put this general radar in motion for you. And it just started raining in Avondale, Louisiana. Okay, thanks for that update. Let me take a look at where... I'm going to take a look at our tornado warning in Louisiana and let you know what I'm seeing here. If I remember exactly... give me 1 second. I'm just double checking you on Avondale, given that we do have the tornado warning out there now too. So give me 1 second while I get an update for you. We had someone on last night who was in Rolla, Missouri, and you know, she was asking about if there was going to be a tornado in Rolla, and I was like, you know, you have a really good chance. You know, not expecting that there actually would be, because the odds of a tornado hitting somewhere specifically are low. And sure enough, right as we were going, you know, there was a tornado in Avondale. Let's see. In Rolla. But as for Avondale, there is a severe storm moving into the New Orleans area. So you're going to be impacted by this severe thunderstorm. It does not look like you will see a tornado out there, but there's going to be some heavy rain and quite a bit of lightning. You're probably going to hear some small hail out there in Avondale as well. So get ready for some temporary loudness, so to speak, as that storm gets pretty close. But I do not see, luckily, a tornado threat on that one, at least not at the time being. We have an extension on our tornado warning in Tennessee as well here. Let me just see what information we can glean from this. And as we take a look at our radar, we're gonna move our radar over to Tennessee out here, as we just got an extension on a tornado warning. If you're watching from Tennessee, drop a TN in the chat for me, just so I can see how many we got out there, because this is one of the areas that may be getting impacted right now. And for those of you guys in Ohio, since we have so many people in Ohio, and I see your chat here in YouTube as well, thanks for coming on here, Tina. Oh, you've been on here actually, so I'll get you an update on Florence here in just a moment. Just want to make note of this storm in Tennessee. Right by Darky Springs and Shady Grove is where we have the potential for a tornado in Tennessee. This is going to be moving to the north of Sparta, Tennessee, and right through Yankeetown, Tennessee, if it remains on its current track, and getting pretty close to Monterey and Mineral Springs, Tennessee. So those areas are next in line to be impacted by a potential tornado out there in Tennessee. Let's see what else we got here. We just got a new tornado warning, by the way, as well. We're going to get to this one too. Then I'll take a look at Florence. Actually, I'll take a look at Florence right now real quick. Florence, Alabama right now, about to be impacted by a severe storm. Quarter-size hail, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. No tornado threat, no imminent tornado threat in Florence, but this storm is about to go through Florence right now. It's probably about 2 more hours before the threat declines in Florence, but I want to get to this storm. We already saw this exact area that I'm about to call out impacted by a potential tornado earlier. So this could potentially be the second tornado in this area. It is to the west of Tuscaloosa. If you guys have been on for a little while, you remember we were talking about this earlier. This is following right behind the storm that we have been tracking. So I'm going to keep them both on the screen for you guys here on TikTok. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see we have the couplet highlighted here. So right by Aliceville in Alabama, and moving in the direction of Olney and Hickory, Alabama right now. If there is a tornado on the ground, it would be right by those 3 towns, and you have to be in your safe place. Not just if you're there, but if you're downstream too. So let me put a tracker on this as well, and I'll let you know who is next in line to potentially see this tornado. And as we mark it off, Hickory, Olney, Kirk, Gordo, Holman, Elrod, Echola, those are all places where you need to be in your safe place right now because you have the potential to be facing a tornado at this time. This is a tornado warned storm, and the latest radar update we got does not look promising because the rotation looks a lot stronger here. So again, this is moving in the direction of Gordo, Alabama. It is just moved past Aliceville, and it is showing up a lot more impressive on radar. I'm not seeing debris, but I am seeing a very strong rotational couplet, and that is where our tornado would be. It's basically, it's just a few miles to the east of Aliceville, moving in the direction of Gordo. So we will be watching that storm closely, and it is following up our storm that is, not too far ahead of it, really near Jasper, Alabama is where that second storm is, producing some large hail and certainly rotating as well. So pretty busy. Let's see. Atlanta is going to be an area of concern as we get later into tonight. I'm thinking Atlanta is going to be after midnight, closer to perhaps 2 or 3 a.m. even. So for those of you guys who are watching on TikTok and on YouTube, the important thing for those of you who are in Georgia where this threat is going to reach a little bit later, the important thing to note is that you'll need to have something that can wake you up if you're planning to go to sleep before the storms are out. So you'll want to turn on emergency alerts on your phone. You can find them in settings. And then from there, you can turn your ringer on, make sure to wake you up if there is a warning. Seeing a bunch of questions about Birmingham as well. And if you're in Birmingham, that threat is largely to your west and north right now. The west and north of Birmingham. I'm not seeing it quite in Birmingham at this time, but the threat still has not yet peaked in Birmingham either. So the next few hours, we need to watch closely. Detroit, Michigan's all good. Pensacola, Florida. Right now, I've been keeping an eye on Florida. Right now, the threat out there in Florida is going to be greater in the early morning tomorrow. Not so much today or tonight, more so in the early morning tomorrow. So let's see here. Those of you guys who have just tuned in, by the way, I'm happy to have you here. I really hope we can keep you safe, keep you informed, give you some good weather information, keep you ahead of these storms, of course. I'll say right now, we're streaming on both YouTube and TikTok. But if you're new to one of my streams, I am a meteorologist. You're going to get good weather information from me, information that you can trust. There's a lot of people out there who do this who, no hard feelings towards them, but don't really know what they're talking about. This is information I can tell you is from a trained professional. So consider following or subscribing if you're watching on YouTube here. And I'm going to do my best to keep you safe and updated and ahead of these storms. I will also add, since we have a lot more people watching on our TikTok stream right now, if you're asking questions and I'm not getting to them, I'm really doing my best to do so. But if I don't get to your questions on TikTok here, if you go over to Tucker Weather on YouTube, I'm also streaming on there literally at this exact same time. And if you ask your questions in the YouTube chat, again, that's at Tucker Weather, I will tell you, I'm going to see them a lot quicker. So if you have an urgent question and I'm not getting to it, you can find me on YouTube and ask that question too. Clarksville, Tennessee. However, I do see that question here. It's been a couple of Clarksville questions. Clarksville is in a spot where we are looking at these storms beginning to slowly wind down. In fact, the biggest concern out in Clarksville, Tennessee at this point is the flooding from all the rain that's already fallen. So Clarksville, my biggest concern is more so flooding at this point. The severe weather threat in Clarksville, luckily, has come to an end. So you're all clear out there. Happy to give you that word. Not all clear, though, if we're looking at eastern Mississippi, where we have several tornado warnings right now. We have possibly a significant tornado moving in the direction of Meridian, Mississippi at this moment as well. And if you're near Meridian, you are in this tornado warning. Marion, Suba is also in this warning. And if you're in Alabama, I'm looking at these areas that are just across the border of Mississippi. Cuba, York, Livingston, and Emile, Alabama, even Gainesville, Alabama out here. You are not in a tornado warning right now, but it seems very likely that you will be added to a tornado warning very soon. In areas that are south of Meridian, I'm looking at Enterprise, Stonewall. A tornado may have just moved through that area and is moving in the direction of Pleasant Hill, Cliff Williams, Alamucha. So if you happen to be in those spots, you really got to head to your safe place. And again, that's the lowest floor of a building or at least an interior room on that lowest floor. And a basement, of course, is ideal if you guys happen to have one. But we are watching a couple tornado-warned storms at this exact moment. A lot of them in the eastern portion of Mississippi, some of them in the central portion of Alabama right now. I will say, as a whole, everything I'm seeing suggests that this severe weather threat is lower than forecasted. That said, it's a very big threat regardless, so the threat is not necessarily playing out as big time as it was forecasted, but it's still coming in pretty significant here. All right, answering some more of those questions in the YouTube chat. Oklahoma, you're all clear now. You're all clear in Oklahoma. Let me get a look on Warrior, Alabama, since I see that question in the YouTube chat here. If any of you guys are on from yesterday, by the way, happy to have you back. We had a really good crowd yesterday. You guys got me up to 2,400 subs on YouTube, which was huge, so I appreciate that. Hopefully I was able to help you out just as much. Warrior, Alabama. Okay, so that's an interesting spot. I'm going to take a look at Warrior, Alabama closer because that is in a place where we do have at least a tornado warning nearby. So Warrior, Alabama. We're jumping into this one a little closer. And what you're going to see here is Warrior. I'm going to circle it here on TikTok, and I'm going to circle it here on YouTube as well. Our storm right now is going to pass close by, but the good news is that it looks like it's going to miss to the west here. So the good news, obviously, is that you don't have anything to worry about in terms of an imminent tornado. But the not so great news is that Warrior still is in a spot where that threat has not yet ended. And there are more storms that will pass nearby. So this tornado-warned storm is closer to Cordova and Sipsey. If there's a tornado, it would be passing through Cordova and Sipsey right now and ending up to the north of Warrior. Luckily, not in Warrior itself, however. But we will continue to watch that closely. And any of these storms as they move into Alabama. Northern Georgia, that's including Atlanta. Both places, Atlanta and really anywhere in northern Georgia, the threat's going to increase late tonight. So my concern with those places is that the threat for severe weather may occur when you're asleep. And so for that reason, like I said before, this counts for everybody who's listening, and especially if you are in Georgia, even if you're in eastern Tennessee as well, make sure you have emergency alerts turned on your phone. And if you have them on and there's a tornado warning where you are, that would hopefully wake you up. Make sure emergency alerts are turned on. Make sure your ringer is on too, of course. All right, we got a question about Dora, which is very, very close to this potential tornado here. So we're going to take another look at this. You can see Dora on your screen right now. It is right there. I'm going to circle it. If we have a tornado, it'd be right where the southern end of that red coloration on our radar extends to, right by Cordova. Cordova, I know if you're in Dora, that's very close to you, but luckily the storm is moving to the northeast. Now, if I was in Dora, to be safe, I'd still be heading down to a basement, to my safe place, but it's very likely that a tornado, if on the ground, would have moved right through Cordova right here, and Dora would be on the southern end. You'd just be missing this by just a couple miles. It's a close call, but you look like you're all right in Dora. And actually, speaking of this storm, we just got an extension on the tornado warning. So some of you, if you're watching from these areas, it's likely you just got an emergency alert on your phone. It's a radar-indicated tornado. Actually, this storm is now a confirmed tornado, by the way, in Cordova. So as I switch to our debris, I'm hoping we don't see anything. But it looks as though we may have just had a tornado move through Cordova, Alabama. Hard to say how strong it is, but it's like literally right in the middle of Cordova. So that could have done some damage, some real damage. Hopefully not. Hopefully it was no longer on the ground, but that's concerning to say the very least there. This storm is heading in the direction of Sipsey, Campbellville, Coon Creek, Powellville, Wilburn, Arkadelphia, Cold Springs, Bushy Pond, Dodge City, Loretto, Trimble, and Good Hope, Garden City as well. All of those towns, those cities I just mentioned, you are in the path of this storm. You can see that was just extended, that warning, to the north and east, and it has been extended because of the potential for a tornado to continue to be produced. And I expect we're going to see these warnings extended even further. So I'm going to tell you this right now, even though you're pretty far out of it, and we got another tornado warning right behind this too. So for those of you guys who I'm talking about right now, you may actually have a double tornado warning kind of day. So I'm thinking of you guys. Be careful and be alert. Some other places that are likely to be under tornado warnings in the next hour or two: New Hope, Alabama; Scottsboro. We're looking at Stevenson. Huntsville will be close, but I believe these warnings are going to end up passing south of Huntsville. Guntersville is also very possible as well, too, to be in a warning. We also have, what is that? Guntersville Lake also. If you're anywhere near Guntersville Lake, it's very possible you find yourself in a warning at some point here as well. I'm going to take a look at our tornado warning near Gordo. I believe this is a confirmed tornado, and yes, it is. So we're going to take a look a little bit to the south and east, south and west now, and what we're seeing is a dangerous situation playing out near Gordo. So I'm going to say this right now. If you are in Gordo or around Gordo, you really need to be heading down to your safe place immediately. That's for Gordo. That is where we have an imminent tornado threat. Do we have anybody in chat in or near Gordo? Because that is where we have a very, very likely tornado on the ground right now. And actually, what we are seeing is one of the more scarier looks that we can get in meteorology. That blue section right there we're seeing in this otherwise pretty red background, that is debris. So we have a confirmed tornado on the ground. It is going to be passing. It looks like it may pass just barely to the north of Gordo, and yes, it is. It's actually sort of exiting the tornado warning. So Bell, this is a really bad look for Bell, Alabama. We got Fairview, Zion, Alabama. These are some small places. It's passing just to the south and east of Reform, Alabama as well. And you can see very clearly here we have a very large debris ball, as we call it. This is one of the bigger ones I've seen. So luckily, again, it does appear to be in a less populated area, but this is a confirmed tornado, no doubt about it. Moving between Reform and Gordo, passing very, very close to Gordo. It is now a PDS tornado warning. So what is now being confirmed is a large and extremely dangerous tornado, words from the National Weather Service. And this storm is, like I said, evolving very quickly. We do have a confirmed damaging tornado now as this continues to move northeast through Alabama, and we are going to hope that this does not continue to produce. But what I will say is that these storms, each one of them has the potential to produce for quite some time as we are watching them move into a very favorable environment for tornadoes. And you can see, again, very clearly there, those red and green colors side by side. We're pulling up our velocity. Yeah, that, no doubt about it. That is a tornado on radar right here. So please be safe. If you're near Gordo, if you're near Reform, I'm going to call out some more towns here. If you're even near Berry, Alabama, and a lot of those places we were talking about before are going to face this tornado threat as well. This is more or less where we're looking at the greatest threat in the short term here. So I'm going to call out some towns: Bell, Gordo, Zion, Moores Bridge, New Lexington, Bankston, Berry, Sandtown. These are all in Alabama, and Boley Springs and Alta also. These are all locations where there may be a tornado on the way to you right now. So you got to be getting down to that safe place. A basement if you have one, of course. But we certainly have two storms right here that are very dangerous, and both may be currently producing tornadoes right now, especially this one that we've been tracking in the Gordo vicinity. That is a storm that is confirmed to be producing a tornado at this moment, in fact. I'll take a look at Jasper for you, too. Let me get a look at Jasper, too, since I've seen that question come up more than once. Jasper, luckily for Jasper, you are just far enough to the north that this storm, at least, should not be impacting you. Here's the thing with Jasper, though. Oakman, Jasper. Jasper, you're going to want to stay on here because we are watching this second storm. The one near Gordo, I know Gordo is not that close to you, but that storm near Gordo is going to be continuing to move in the direction of Jasper. So let's see. Dora is okay right now. I'll say that about Dora. Let's see. Chattanooga, Tennessee, I was looking at earlier. Those of you guys who were asking about Chattanooga, the threat's going to increase. It's going to be mainly between 6 p.m. and 3 a.m. in Chattanooga. Wind is actually a bigger concern than tornadoes in Chattanooga, but we are still looking at what will be a significant tornado threat in Chattanooga. Just not as high as some of the stuff that we're seeing to the south and west of you guys. Dora at this exact moment, like I said, is okay. But we need to keep an eye on Dora because, again, the second storm near Gordo is going to be making a pass very close to Dora. So we have to watch that really, really closely right now, guys. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that especially. But you can see our 2 tornado-warned storms right now, and it is that storm to the south and east that is most concerning. South and west right now. It's most concerning near Gordo. By the way, if you guys are just tuning in, I am a meteorologist. I have a degree in meteorology. I work as a weatherman for a living, so consider following here. You're going to get good weather information. We're going to keep you updated on this live. This is information that you can trust, and just be careful you're getting your weather info from because a lot of people are fakers out there. But you're in a good place right now. I can tell you that. We're going to make sure that you're staying up and ahead of these threats as we go through the rest of this evening. I'll also add, for those of you guys watching on TikTok, we are also streaming right now on YouTube. If you use YouTube, you might get a better streaming experience on there if you follow Tucker Weather, only because what I'm saying is I got less people watching on YouTube right now. So if you have comments and I'm not seeing them, I am doing my best to get to all of them, and I will be looking at TikTok comments closely. But I'm just simply seeing the YouTube comments quicker at this moment. So Tucker Weather on YouTube, if you do use YouTube, that you might get more of a beneficial experience on there. But nonetheless, we are going to be giving you the same information in both places, we as in myself, and I'm watching this closely. Let's see, how far can tornadoes travel typically? It really depends a lot. So tornadoes, they can be, they can travel as little as 100 feet and as far as... I'm trying to think that the tri-state tornado was the longest track tornado. That might have been for 100 miles, but typically most of your tornadoes are going to travel in the range of, about, we'll say 100 yards, some of those weak tornadoes. And then some of our stronger tornadoes, those can travel, those might travel as far as, 20 miles or something like that. So it's a pretty wide range. It all depends on the storm and what's sustaining those tornadoes. All right, I got a question in YouTube chat about Atlanta. Atlanta, that threat's going to increase later tonight. My concern is damaging wind and the potential for tornadoes out there as well. But the biggest concern I have is that the threat in Atlanta is going to be mainly after dark. So you'll want to make sure you have something that can wake you up if a tornado warning is issued, because that threat may be going until after midnight, and you don't want to be asleep when there's a tornado warning. So that is a concern. Athens, Alabama, we do not have any warnings in Athens, Alabama right now, luckily. But we will be watching. It seems as though the threat is decreasing right now in Athens, but it is still certainly something that needs to be watched, and we will be keeping an eye on that. By the way, if you guys have questions that I'm not getting to, you can always send me a message on Instagram. Follow me there. Send me a message on Instagram. I'll answer your questions there. I always get to every question I see on Instagram, but I'm doing my best to get to all your questions in chat here. Especially YouTube chat. I'm seeing those questions quickest right now. It's just the way it is at this moment. Mobile, Alabama, I have been watching as well for these storms at this moment. These storms haven't reached Mobile. They'll be there a little bit later this evening, but at this time, Mobile is okay. These storms are staying to the north at this time, but that threat's going to increase as we get later on tonight for sure. Jacksonville, Alabama. Also, let me take a look at Jacksonville. Since I'm not exactly familiar with where that is, so let me look that up. The storms as we head later tonight, by the way, are going to transition to more of a damaging wind threat too. Still will be a tornado threat, but damaging wind is going to take over. In Jacksonville, the threat is beginning to increase, but you still have a little bit of time here. There it is, before that severe weather reaches you out there in Jacksonville. So you got to be watching into the evening. It's likely that threat's going to be highest after dark where you are, and it's going to be important to be watching that closely. Warrior, you're okay for now, but we need to watch as a second storm is moving your direction, and that second storm has the potential to produce a tornado out there in Warrior, Alabama. Southern Indiana, the threat for severe weather is a lot lower out there. Southern Indiana, my concern is mainly going to be just some general thunderstorms. In fact, the threat out there, I'm not super concerned in general, outside of the potential for some damaging wind. So hopefully that puts you to a little bit more rest. Cookeville, Tennessee. Let's take a look at Cookeville, Tennessee. And Tennessee is in a spot sort of getting the seconds of these storms out here. With Cookeville, I know we had something there not too long ago. Let me take a look at Cookeville, Tennessee for you as well. Cookeville is in a severe thunderstorm warning. There is a tornado warning that is to the east of Cookeville, Tennessee right now. Cookeville is actually, you know what, you're in the clear from that severe storm. There is not going to be a tornado warning in Cookeville. The severe weather threat is likely decreasing now in Cookeville, but it's not completely over. We'll need to watch these storms in Alabama before we say for sure if you're in the clear. But Cookeville, at least, we're looking at a situation that may be slowly improving at this point. Was there a confirmed tornado in Evansville, Indiana this morning? To be completely honest, I don't know at this moment, but I can check that after the stream. If you ask that question somewhere else, I'll make sure I respond to that. I'll check that after this. Mount Hope, Alabama. Yeah, let's take a look at Mount Hope. Let me get a look at exactly where that is for you. Mount Hope, Alabama. This is certainly in an area where we've seen more activity recently. Although Mount Hope, it also looks as though in Mount Hope that severe weather threat is beginning to decrease. It's more so going to become a flooding risk out there because there's so much rain. So Mount Hope, Alabama, that threat is now becoming more so the flooding rain out there and less so the tornadoes. So good news to that end of things. Coleman, Alabama, thanks for that update. Coleman, Alabama, I got sirens going off. Let me see where Coleman is so we can get you an update there too. You know, Coleman we were talking about earlier for a potential tornado, and some of these places are going to see more than one tornado threat today. We've seen a couple places with more than one warning, in fact. So it's one of those where we have two separate rounds of storms that are sort of coming through, and that's going to ultimately bring, you know, even if you get one warning, you might not be completely done. So Coleman, Alabama, we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at that. You can see that is right by Good Hope. One of the storms we've been watching, the one that's north of Birmingham, is going to make a close pass to Coleman. Now, if we look at this closely, what you're going to see is that our hook extends pretty far south of this storm. So a tornado is likely to be south of the Coleman area. It's likely to be south of Good Hope, though you should be heading down to the basement because there is a warning. And if this does shift direction, it could be headed at you. But right now, based on what I'm seeing here for Coleman, is that we have our greatest area of rotation moving northeast. It would put it on a track that moves it just south of Good Hope, a little bit closer to Hanceville and Holly Pond. But if you're in Coleman, what you will need to watch out for is the potential for some large hail because you're going to be on the north side of the storm. And that's how it works, guys. You can see those brighter red colors. That's not actually where a tornado would be. That's where most of the rain and hail is here. But it's that hook that sticks out beneath it. That is where your tornado would be. So again, your large hail where you're seeing those brightest colors, and your hook on the bottom is where a tornado would occur with these storms. So in Coleman, you should go down to the basement out of precaution here. But what I'm telling you from what I'm seeing is that if there is a tornado, you're likely to hear about it in towns to your south. Again, we are looking at a few active tornado warnings at this moment. If you are in, let's see, Selma, I'll take a look at Selma for you. The threat should be increasing later in Selma as that's farther south. So not a high threat right now, but that is a place where the severe weather threat will be increasing a little bit later on here. I will take a look at the, let's see. Trying to get to all your questions here. Dalton, Georgia. Anyone in Georgia, your severe weather threat's going to increase a little bit later on tonight. It's not super high right now, but in Georgia, we are expecting this threat to increase as we get after dark. So my concern with Georgia is going to be what happens after the sun sets. So you have some time to wait and watch. It is going to be a tornado threat, but especially a damaging wind threat in Georgia. Let's see this question. Confused about the percentages. Let's see. So basically in Georgia, yeah, the percentages. So the storm, if you guys are familiar, who's familiar with the Storm Prediction Center? Who's familiar with the Storm Prediction Center? They issue like a lot of percentages and stuff like that and different levels of risks. It can get a little confusing But for Atlanta, basically, because I've looked at it a lot today, what they're saying is in Atlanta, you have basically a medium risk for tornadoes and a medium high risk for wind. So your wind is your biggest threat, and a tornado is unlikely, but you should be prepared for a tornado because the chance is certainly high enough that it could happen. And for at least as a precautionary measure, you should be prepared for that, and you should be you should be planning for that. Worst case scenario. Cleveland, Tennessee, we're going to take a look at. Seeing a lot more questions in YouTube chat on Tucker weather, so I'm trying to get to those, and I'm going to take a look at our TikTok chat as well. And if you're on TikTok, I'm seeing those questions on YouTube a little bit quicker, just because there's less people in there. And you can find me at Tucker Weather on there. So let's see what else we got here. Cleveland, Tennessee, there is a severe thunderstorm near you. Looks like it's just going to miss to your west, but I'm not seeing a severe weather threat at this moment in Cleveland, Tennessee. Let's see what else we got here. Continuing to track severe storms, especially these two in Alabama. What I will say is that as a whole today, guys, this is turning out to be not quite as bad as forecasted. We've still had some big storms, some tornadoes, but this is not turning out to be quite as bad as it was forecasted. So there is good news there, but we still have multiple tornado warnings. Montgomery, Alabama, I was looking at earlier, and in Montgomery, the threat is going to increase a little bit later on today. So after dark out there is when your threat increases. Northern Kentucky does have a chance at tornadoes, but it's a low chance. I wouldn't be too concerned, but you should have a plan. You should have a way to get warnings just in case. Let's see here. Murfreesboro is not yet in the clear, but the worst of it has moved past. Let's see. I saw someone ask about the YouTube, so I'll just put it in the chat here so you guys know the channel. So give me 1 second. Give me one moment. I don't even know where I can do that. But basically, that's fine. All right, basically, lost my train of thought. Yeah, Murfreesboro. That's right. Let's take a look at Murfreesboro. There was a tornado warning in Murfreesboro earlier. You know what? Murfreesboro, outside of a severe storm, you're not in the clear yet, but a tornado seems pretty unlikely at this point. So, again, plan for the worst, stay on alert, but the good news is that the threat for a tornado has decreased a lot if you're out there near Murfreesboro. South Carolina. Yeah, so South Carolina, absolutely. Some of you guys who are in the Carolinas, you may or may not know, if you're in the Carolinas at least, that there is a severe weather threat out there tomorrow as well. And in the Carolinas, my biggest concern is going to be the potential for damaging wind tomorrow. That includes the eastern half of Georgia. Those of you guys in Georgia, the eastern half of Georgia, we have that threat for a tornado as well. Damaging wind, though, the biggest threat in the Carolinas. And that threat extends all the way up into the mid-Atlantic as well. Guys, a lot of times as these storms move eastwards, when you have these big setups, they slowly do begin to run out of instability. And when we lose the instability, you still can get severe weather, at least this time of year, when you have a lot of wind energy, and that sort of overcompensates for the instability, and you end up getting more of that. You get more lines of storms that produce damaging wind, and less so the tornadoes. So that's going to be what we're watching for the East Coast tomorrow, for sure. 30% in weather terms is, it's definitely a lot in weather terms for a high wind risk. The areas that we were talking about today, remember we have a high risk in effect. Again, if you guys are familiar, you may have heard that if you were listening to your local news, that we have a high risk for severe weather in effect. And this means that if you're in that high risk, basically central Mississippi and north central Alabama, the forecast was a 1 in 3 chance that a tornado would hit within 25 miles of your house, which is pretty high. That's a high threat for sure in weather terms. Let's see. If you're in Ohio, especially out towards like Dayton, your threat for severe weather is quite low. There could be some storms. There could be some strong storms, but severe weather seems pretty unlikely here. Same thing for Knoxville, Tennessee, although the threat in Knoxville is going to increase later tonight. It's higher than Ohio. It's you got a damaging wind threat first and foremost, but a tornado threat still on the medium side out there. So you got to be alert, especially after dark. I'll take a look at Pinson, Alabama as well, since I'm seeing that question come up. Pinson, Alabama. Let's get a look at where that is. All right, so I see in Pinson, Alabama. You're okay out there in Pinson. The threat is not over yet, but the 2 tornado-warned storms that we've been watching are not going to directly impact you in Pinson. Let's see where else you guys are at. Columbus, Georgia, that threat's going to increase after midnight. So I want you to be on alert late tonight. Make sure you have a way to get warnings. That's the most important thing. Make sure you have a way to get warnings because if you don't have a way to get warnings and it's late at night, you may not be aware that you have a storm headed your way, and it could very well be a tornado-producing storm. Let's see, Warrior, Alabama. Yeah, that second storm right now with the trajectory it's on, it looks to be weakening first off, but if you're, for Warrior, Alabama, it does look like that is beginning to move to your north. At least it's to the west of you right now, but I believe it's going to miss to the north. So 2 kind of close calls for Warrior, but you should be all right. Yeah, those tornadoes in South Carolina recently, those were certainly something. That was definitely, it wasn't definitely out of nowhere, but it was an early event, especially out there. It happens in March in the South, though. It's still the severe weather season for you guys, but it's early for sure. Looks like a bunch of you guys have just tuned in. I'm doing my best to get to all your questions. Mobile, that threat will increase a little bit later. I'll take a look at Biloxi for you too. While I look these up, I'm going to say again, if you're just tuning in here, I'm a meteorologist. I'm going to give you the best weather information I can get. I do this for a living. I got a degree in this. I'm a professional. So this is weather information that I promise you can trust. And so for that reason alone, consider following, because there's a lot of people spreading some bad information out there. So if you want to stay ahead of the bad information, consider following here. Again, I'll be a source you can trust for weather. By the way, Biloxi, you're okay out there. I'll also say, we're streaming here on TikTok. We're streaming here on YouTube too. So for those of you guys who are watching right here on TikTok, if you look up Tucker Weather on YouTube, I'm seeing questions come in a little bit quicker on there. There's less people on the YouTube. So if you do use YouTube and you like watching YouTube, consider looking up Tucker Weather on YouTube because that's another place where you can ask your questions. TikTok chats are kind of hard. I feel like they get just cluttered with messages. YouTube will help that out a little bit. But regardless, we're streaming in both places. I'm looking at your questions in both places as well. Right now, let's see, Ackworth, Georgia. Let me take a look at that. Right now, I'll say our severe weather threat is temporarily a little bit lower. Doesn't mean it's going to stay lower, but it is temporarily just a little bit lower, and we don't have to worry about any significant threats imminently. But we still have a couple tornado warnings, and we're going to get you an update on those coming up here in just a moment. Ackworth, if you're basically anywhere near Atlanta, that threat for severe weather is going to come after midnight tonight, so I want you to be aware as we continue to track these storms late into the night. I might take a break on the stream and come on later too at some point if things pick up, but that is so this is not going to be over when the sun sets. Sometimes that's how it works. Sometimes once the sun sets, you lose that instability and the day's over. Not the case here. Alabaster, that threat is still hasn't quite got to you guys. The threat basically is going from north and west to south and east. So Alabaster, that threat's to the north and west of you right now. It's still working its way south and east. Great question. I just got a question. Are the high winds just as damaging as a tornado? The answer is they can be. A weak tornado can be just as strong as a 60 or 70 mile per hour wind gust. So when wind gusts are getting as high as 60, 70 miles per hour, that's when we're talking about a serious threat, because when you get wind gusts that strong, you can do as much damage as a weak tornado. And speaking of tornadoes, I want to get you a quick update, by the way, on our storm out here near Dodge City, Alabama. We're going to take a closer look at this. I haven't seen much on radar that would suggest it's picking up at all, but it is still a tornado-warned storm, so I just want to update you on it. You can see that hook. We are looking at some rotation in here. That's where you're seeing those brighter colors side by side. The orange and red colors more specifically side by side here. If there is a tornado occurring, it would be right north of Dodge City. It would be passing south of Good Hope. Coleman, it would be passing close to you, but just to the east, You all should be in your safe places now if you're in any of the places I'm mentioning, and this is moving in the direction of Fairview, Baileyton, Birdsong, Simcoe, Berlin especially. If there is a tornado on the ground, Berlin is in a really tricky spot here where it may impact that area. Going to slide this a little bit farther to the south. We're going to take a look at our warning that we've been tracking out here in the, well, this is honestly kind of in the middle of nowhere, but moving in the direction of Berry, Alabama. We do have a storm that is continuing to rotate, and it is moving in the direction of Berry. So if you're in Berry or near Berry, you should be heading to your safe place. You should be in there right now as there is already a tornado warning. Essentially, once you get a tornado warning, guys, you should hopefully already be prepared to go to a safe place inside. And I'm looking around. We also have another tornado warning right here. We're going to take a look at this one too. It is in Mississippi. This one is near Quitman. Actually, you know what? This one's about to expire too. We looked at that one earlier. That tornado warning never really did so much. So we're going to be down to, luckily, just 2 current tornado warnings. Doesn't mean we're going to stick with only 2 warnings, but at the time being, we do only have 2 active tornado warnings, and they are both in north central Alabama, the 2 that we've been talking about for a while, as these have been a couple that I have been more concerned about relative to some of our other storms today. So we're continuing to watch these storms. I'm continuing to answer your questions in TikTok chat and YouTube chat especially. Let's see what we got now. Any tornadoes that have touched down in Alabama, I don't have any confirmation yet, although it seems very likely from what I've seen. I expect that we've already seen 2 touch down in Alabama. There was one that likely touched down right by Gordo, and we had another one that was on the ground near Aliceville, I believe. And it did seem like it was possible that one occurred somewhere to the north of Birmingham, though that was less certain. I would be surprised, I'll say this, if we have not had tornadoes touch down. By the way, those of you guys who are in chat, especially TikTok chat, since there's so many in here right now, if you have any reports, let me know. I'd love to hear the reports you got. Hail is certainly possible in Birmingham, but I don't expect it to be particularly large. I'm thinking up to 1 inch in Birmingham. Your car should be okay in that. 1-inch hail should not dent a car, luckily. Alpharetta, Georgia, we will have to watch that area. That threat will be increasing a bit later on here. Last couple of hours, so far today, I've been saying this, our severe weather threat has not been as bad as feared, which is good news. Does not mean it's going to stay that way. We've seen a lot of these severe weather outbreaks in the past where, it looks as though things are not producing as much as we were expecting, and it looks as though, okay, look, the whole day is gonna bust, and then guess what? The sun sets, and you get what we call it 6 o'clock magic in meteorology, and storms really start to spin up tornadoes. So we have to watch for that, as there is that potential for a resurgence in these storms, especially as we get later into the night. And what happens is as we get into the night and temperatures drop a bit, we see it a little bit less in the south. It's especially more in the Midwest, but you're able to strengthen the low-level winds when that happens. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have as big an effect with this setup, but it is a possibility that is something that could come into play here. Looking at TikTok chat now, let's see. A lot of you guys have just tuned in recently. So again, I'm Tucker. I'm a meteorologist. I'm here to answer all your weather questions. We're tracking severe weather right now too. I will say at this moment, our storms are a little bit weaker than they have been for the most part today, which is good news, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stay that way. Like I said, I am a meteorologist, so consider following me here on TikTok. Consider subscribing on YouTube. YouTube especially, guys, for those of you who are watching on TikTok who also have YouTube, I'm really working on building a community on YouTube, especially because I can do more long-form content. I love to teach weather, and it's a really useful tool for teaching weather and explaining some of those weather questions that you guys have. I found from doing these severe weather lives, a lot of people who are watching, very understandably so, get a little bit nervous about severe weather. And the more you learn about severe weather, the less I think there is to be nervous about. So I'm trying to definitely do more of that work on YouTube. So if you have any questions or you're just interested in that content, you can find me at Tucker Weather on YouTube as well. So just wanted to throw that out there, kind of explain what I'm doing. Because our storm's a little quieter right now, I feel like I have a little bit of time to get into that stuff. Metro Atlanta, by the way, seeing more questions about Atlanta. that threat's going to increase as we get later into tonight and mainly after dark. So what I want you to do in Atlanta, and if you're anywhere in Georgia, make sure you have emergency alerts turned on your phone, and then also make sure that you have your ringer turned on. So if there's a warning, your phone will trigger and it will make noise and hopefully wake you up. At this moment, we have 2 tornado warnings ongoing. We did just get a new tornado warning in Alabama, so we're going to rotate our camera down here and take a look at this guy. Warrior, Alabama. I got another question. We got a couple Warrior, Alabama questions today. Warrior, you're okay right now. There is a strong storm that's just going to barely miss you to the west and north. So if you're Warrior, I'm not too concerned about the immediate threat, but we will be looking at more storms approaching you over the next few hours. So it's not over yet, but you are not in a bad spot right now, as opposed to some of the areas just to the north of Warrior. So here's our current tornado warning, by the way, just to give you an update. It's kind of far from the radar, so it's hard to make out on our wind velocity, but it's right by York, Alabama, and Livingston, Alabama. It does to me look like it is going to pass to the south of York and Livingston if there was a tornado. It looks as though it would be just south of those areas, moving the direction of Forkland, Alabama. So this is what we are watching right now. That is one of just 2 current tornado warnings at this moment. It's about as quiet as it has been so far today, which is great news. Very, very good news there. But we still have a lot of time for these storms to kick back up. And that's what I'm saying to you right now. Like, I'm happy I can be with you here while it's quiet and we can celebrate that. But you cannot, absolutely not let your guard down with this threat, as it is a significant tornado threat and severe weather threat and as a whole. Damaging wind, of course, a big concern here as well. So let's see. I might grab some water in a sec. So if I get quiet, it's because I'm grabbing some water. I'm taking a look now at radar, which is quieting down a bit. Eufaula. I'll take a look at Eufaula for you out there. The threat right now is increasing in Alabama, especially if you're south of Birmingham as these storms move in. But otherwise, the threat is greatest mainly to the mainly in central Alabama at this time. So Eufaula, that threat's going to increase late tonight, perhaps more so early in the morning tomorrow is when that threat will be greatest out there. It's primarily going to be a damaging wind threat, but tornadoes are possible out there as well. So you need to have a plan in place in case there is a tornado warning where you are. And that's one of the things, too, that's important to note is that, you have to be ready for the worst case scenario. So even though it's quiet right now, one of the things that I do want to stress is that there is still a lot of time to go in this threat for severe weather. And, as I mentioned, we're seeing severe storms. We're not seeing as many tornado warnings. But, even if there's just a low tornado chance where you are, you should just, in general, be prepared for the worst. Because if it comes, to fruition, you don't want to be caught off guard. And that's why we talk about, low tornado threats still. Because I don't want to say, hey, you got a low tornado threat, you don't need to worry about it. It's, hey, you don't need to worry, but you do need to be prepared still. There's a key difference between those two things for sure. All right, let's see what we got here. Got a good crowd here going on TikTok. Got some great people watching on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, by the way, because we'll be doing a lot more of these lives. I'm thinking about on YouTube also doing some more lives, just general weather discussions. I don't know if people are interested in that. You guys on TikTok also, just some general weather talks, even when the weather's quiet, doing a little weather teaching, stuff like that. If anyone's interested in that type of thing. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, the radar does expand farther north, seeing those questions. We actually did just get this just came out, a new tornado warning in Tennessee. So we'll take a look at this one too. It is right by Jamestown, Tennessee. Let's see. Pinson, Alabama. I do not believe Pinson, Alabama will get the worst of it. Looks like we just got 2 new tornado warnings. So let's jump on these. One of these is in an area that people have been asking about a lot today. We're talking about the northern portion of Alabama, Florence, Alabama, actually. Do we still have people in chat who are in Florence? Because I know we had people out there earlier, and the threat has been decreasing, but that's why I said it wasn't completely over yet. Let's take a look at this, though. Jamestown, we have a tornado warning. It will be for about 30 minutes. It's likely a tornado embedded in a line of storms. So if you're near Jamestown or Sharp Place, this is Wow, that's a funny name. Sharp Place or Pall Mall or Moodyville. Fairview, Squirrel Flat, Little Crab. These are places in Tennessee. You should be getting down to the basement now. I also want to mention we have a new tornado warning. It is for Florence, Alabama. Florence, Alabama. Muscle Shoals included in that as well. We're going to take a look at that since that is a reasonably populated area. And this storm is moving to the northeast right now. Do we have people in Florence in chat right now as well? I say we got one person. Looks like we had a couple people who may be. So if you're in Florence, it's time to head to a safe place. It's time to head to that basement. You want to get there now. You want to hurry down. Let's see. Atlanta will not be as bad as some of these storms we're seeing in Mississippi and Alabama, by the way, just so you know. At least it should not be based on the forecast. But with Florence, what we're looking at right now is a tornado threat. It does not look like a big tornado based on radar, but no matter whether it's big or small, you should be doing the same thing and getting down to that safe place. If we have a tornado, it is to the south and west here of the city and moving in the direction of Florence. So this would actually be moving more or less right at Florence right now. So our tornado warning, again, in effect here for at least the next, let me get a look at this. Our tornado warning is in effect for 37 more minutes, and we are tracking a storm that is moving into the Florence area. So if you're out there, you got to head down to the basement. If you don't have a basement, get to the lowest floor of your house and find an interior room. Basically, you want to put as much space between you and the outside walls as possible. This is a storm that is going to be moving into the Florence area likely in about 10 to 15 minutes, but you shouldn't take 10 to 15 minutes to get where you're going. You need to get there now. And what we're also watching is the potential for some strong wind and some hail with this too. I actually got to mention as well, there is the potential for some flooding in Florence. You may already be seeing it. There's been a lot of rain out there, but what I want you to do, of course, is get down to that safe place immediately if you're out there. And if you have friends who are out there or you got family, it might be smart to give them a call. Make sure they're aware if they aren't already. Hopefully they are because that warning was just issued. But no, you're good. Got a question on YouTube. Is it possible that these storms avoid Atlanta? They may end up being sub-severe, which means they're strong but not severe. But the storms will not simply completely miss Atlanta. I hate to say that, but they'll certainly be out there. Let's see here. I'm actually going to grab a drink of water really quickly here, guys. But give me like 2 minutes. Actually, give me like 20 seconds, more like it. Waiting for a radar update on the storm in Florence. If you're in Florence, again, I'm seeing some people say they're from Florence. Make sure you're getting down to your safe place right now. Give me 20 seconds, just grabbing some water. All right, we're back. Had to keep myself fresh here. We've been going for about 2.5 hours now. I'm trying to slide myself back into place though. All right. So we have not got our radar update yet. No surprise. It's taking a little minute here. But Florence is where we have that new tornado warning. We actually got another. Actually, no, that's not new. That is about to expire. Okay, so we just have that one tornado warning in Tennessee, that one tornado warning in Florence, and we got that other tornado warning that we were talking about closer to, where was that? Livingston, Alabama. None of these look particularly menacing, but what I will say is that if we do have a tornado near Florence, it's going to be right where I just drew that circle. I'll show you guys that here on YouTube as well. I just drew that on our TikTok stream, but let me show you what we're looking at here. And our tornado would be right in this area here. Radar needs to update, but this storm is moving in the direction of Florence right now. And we certainly will be looking at some heavy rain and strong winds. Again, that tornado potential, though, is certainly there with this storm near Florence. So we're going to wait and see. That storm earlier that was tornado warned near Coleman, it is now just a severe storm warning for wind up to 60 miles per hour. So 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts are possible with that storm. Otherwise, we are getting back to at least a period of relatively quieter conditions. Good news for Mississippi. You guys in Mississippi are, at this point, most of Mississippi, outside of the southern end of the state, you are in the clear now. So if you're northern Mississippi, you are actually in the clear at this point. Just some heavy rain right in the border of Mississippi and Alabama. If you're right in the border of Mississippi and Alabama, you still got to watch. But if you're more than an hour from Alabama and you're in Mississippi, you're in the clear. So that's good. But if you're right on the border of Mississippi and Alabama, we'll say actually give it another 30 minutes as the back end of those storms begin to pull away. Let's see. Florence right now is still under that tornado warning. I don't see anything that makes me particularly nervous. It looks as though there may be some weak rotation in there, but you should be heading down to the basement if you aren't already there. I'm just saying that this does not look like a particularly violent situation, though certainly any tornado warning, of course, you do need to take that pretty seriously. But I'm watching for you right now out there in Florence. I will keep you updated. I'm watching radar. We just got a new tornado warning too, by the way, guys. So we're going to jump to that. And again, after we take a look at this, I'm going to move us right back to Florence just because we have people in chats, of course, who are in that area. So this was the storm I just mentioned that they decided would be a severe storm warning, and they just issued a tornado warning on top of it. I know we had someone near Coleman earlier, but it's this storm near Coleman that we now have a new warning out for. It is a tornado warning. It is for, it appears to be, it's a confirmed tornado. All right, so this is a little more serious now, actually. We do have a confirmed tornado. That surprises me because we don't have a ton on radar here, but we do have a confirmed tornado. It is moving right at Fairview, Alabama. All right, Fairview, Alabama. I'll repeat that again. We have a confirmed tornado moving in that direction. It's almost right on top of Fairview, which is just to the north and east of Coleman. Let me put a tracker on this. We're going to see how much time it is until it gets to some of these other towns in the path here. So Simcoe, Fairview, Birdsong, Baileytown, Wynn and Ryan Crossroads, Hogjaw, Rice, Sunset Acres, Apple Grove, Arab, Eddy, Meadowood, Friendship, Scant City, Union Grove, Manchester, Cottonville. Those are all places that will be potentially impacted by this confirmed tornado right now, which is right by Fairview, Alabama. Anyone out here near Fairview? That's where we have our tornado on the ground right now. We're going to get back to that. I do want to take a look here at Florence. And in Florence, I'm not seeing a ton of stuff right now that would make me particularly concerned, which is good. We'll jump to it here on YouTube as well. Here's Florence for you. Honestly, I'm just not seeing much in Florence, which is good. You should still be hunkered down if you're in Florence, but I'm not seeing much of a tornado signature out there. So look, Florence, hunker down, but I think you're going to get through this okay. Let me take a look here. So weather spotters confirmed this tornado. So probably some storm chasers saw this tornado out by Coleman and called it in. So that's why we have this tornado warning, thanks to some chasers out there who spotted this. You can see how elongated this warning is. As this storm is moving pretty quickly, it's going to cover a lot of ground as it moves to the north and east here. But this is a confirmed tornado. So people saw it on the ground. They reported it. The National Weather Service, of course, has since then warned it. But this is where we were looking at a more active situation at this moment. I'm going to switch over to our velocity. You'll see, again, a little bit of a mess on velocity, but right here is where it would be, where I just circled. That is where our tornado would be. Right, moving north pretty quickly now, actually, but right through Fairview. It's basically just to the north of Fairview now, pretty close to Eva and Holly Pond. And we're looking at this approaching Cherokee Ridge eventually here. Cherokee Ridge may be one of the places next in line to be impacted by this storm. Cherokee Ridge being right up here. So we're looking at this storm, confirmed tornado on the ground right now, moving near Fairview, Alabama, approaching Cherokee Ridge, Alabama. These are areas that may be impacted next by this potential tornado. Still have that tornado warning near Florence, but again, I'm not seeing a ton in that warning. So, keep your guard up. You should be in your safe place. I don't see anything that, makes me considerably nervous at this moment, though, which is good news. Let's see. So, again, both of these warnings, we do have this confirmed tornado. Not a ton on radar, so we're just going to need to, again, keep a close eye on this one that I was saying near Coleman. It is not in Coleman, but rather has moved to the northeast and is reaching Hulico, Wind Crossroads. Let me actually update our tracker here as this storm is moving more northerly now. So Hulico, Wynn and Ryan Crossroads, Hogjaw, Pine Lake Village, and Ruth, as well as Apple Grove, they're all places that could be impacted here in around the next 10 minutes or so. So we got to keep a close eye on that one. Let's see. Some of your other questions I'm looking at in chat while we wait for some new radar data. Let me see what we can get out of this here. Let me see if we can open up our severe threat too in just a moment. But what we're looking at this present moment is our current tornado warning. I want to make sure you guys know too that this threat does continue pretty late into the night. So we're not going to end up seeing any kind of end to this even when the sun sets. Even after the sun sets, we're going to be looking at this tornado threat, this severe weather threat, and we have a lot of time before this really starts to slow down. We're seeing a bunch of your questions today. A lot of people asking questions about... I've seen a lot of questions about Tennessee, so I'll get to those questions. One of them was Clarksville. Clarksville is in the clear now. You're all good out there in Clarksville. Chattanooga, I'm seeing questions about Chattanooga also. If you're in Chattanooga, that threat is going to be at least, medium for severe weather, we'll call it, as we go through the next 4 to 6 hours. So Chattanooga, you still got time before this threat is over, especially because this confirmed tornado near Fairview, Alabama, this confirmed tornado would eventually be reaching you, or at least your area. If it does stay, a strong enough storm, it would get there in the next couple of hours. So you got to be watching out there for sure. LaGrange, Georgia, that's an area where the threat will be bigger in the early morning tomorrow. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with these storms before they get in there. But there is certainly the chance for some more severe weather. For those of you guys watching here on YouTube, I got a stream going on TikTok. For those of you guys watching on TikTok, I got a stream going on YouTube as well. In terms of damage, we're looking for a couple areas that have been impacted by tornadoes already today. But what I will say is that tornadoes so far have underproduced, which is good news. We have had less tornadoes than expected in this area today. What could have been a really, really massive threat is turning out to be more of a medium level threat. That doesn't mean we're done though. This could really pick up as we get later into the evening, and we certainly have a lot of time to watch this. Looks like Northwest Georgia might have just got into a tornado watch. I'll double check that too, but that makes a lot of sense. It would make sense that they're putting that tornado watch in Georgia as well, because that is where these storms are headed next right here. We still have a pretty big risk for severe weather out there in Georgia. Yeah, I see northern Georgia. I do see that watch that was just issued. So northern Georgia now included in a tornado watch. Not a huge surprise, as that is an area that we were talking about that has some of the higher risk level here. All right, let's see what else we got going on right now. I'm trying to get some updates from some storm chasers, perhaps. I was mentioning before Tylertown, also in a place where we have had some significant damage from a tornado. Let me see what else we got here. It's Tylertown, and let's see. It appears we do have what was a confirmed tornado in Gordo, Alabama. We were talking about that as well. Let me see what else we have here. There have not been a lot of confirmed reported tornadoes. Part of that is because we have not had so much visibility in these storms. So a lot of these storms have been rain wrapped, as we say. Let's see. Yeah, just north of Fairview, exactly. That's what I was looking at as well. We have our confirmed tornado on the ground near Fairview. And we actually just got a new tornado warning, in fact. This one is radar indicated, so let's get to that. But those of you guys in Florence, by the way, if there is a tornado, it would have actually just moved through. Although I suspect we probably did not end up having a tornado in Florence. I can't say that for sure, but it seems more likely that we did not. Let me see what else we have here. If you're in middle or eastern Tennessee, that threat's going to increase a little bit more as we get later on tonight, by the way. And right now, I do want to take a look at a threat that just popped up. This is a new tornado warning. We're seeing it near Falkville and West Point and Princeville in Alabama here. So, again, the storm is near Addison, Alabama. It is moving into those areas I just mentioned. And what we're looking at is the potential for a storm to produce a tornado in Eagle, Helicon, Naismith. We got Jones Chapel, Dripping Springs, Andrews Chapel, Battleground is included in this. Cedar Plains, Lakin, Falkville, Leedsdale, and Hartselle are included in this new tornado warning. This is all north of Birmingham. We're looking at northern Georgia right now, where we have 3 tornado warnings, and that is where the most active severe weather continues to play out. There was a tornado warning in Tennessee earlier. It is technically still there for eastern Pickett and northern Fentress counties, but that seems to have lessened in terms of the risk level. This one that was just issued is Limestone County, Coleman County, Morgan County, this new tornado warning. So you can see our 3 tornado warnings right here, right now. Our storms, though, honestly, not looking so good. They're all clustered up. And by not so good, I mean that's good news for us, because we don't want tornadoes, and these storms are not very healthy. You can see how it's a really big sheet of yellow color here. I was looking at Alabaster earlier, by the way. That threat, and Ohio too. The threat in Alabaster is going to increase a little bit later tonight. Not the biggest threat at this exact moment, luckily. But what I will say is for Alabaster, you've probably heard a lot of messaging about how big today's tornado threat is, and going into today, it really did look pretty big. But I don't expect that this one's going to be quite as significant. Some other guys streaming is able to click on the storm chasers. I'll figure that out next time. But to be honest, in this tornado environment, there's so much rain. If you're going to see a tornado, you're really not going to be able to see it on the ground. This is one where radar really excels. All these storms are rain wrapped and just waterlogged. Let's see. Huntsville, Alabama. That is a spot that you really need to be on watch. Anyone in Huntsville right now, you really need to be watching this closely, because these storms that are to the south of Huntsville are moving in the direction of Huntsville at this moment. And you can kind of see that on the screen right here. Those storms moving right in that direction. So people in Huntsville, be on watch. I would grab some stuff in case you need to head down to the basement for a half hour or so. Because, you may end up having to be there for a bit. Let me look up Pinson for you. Pinson, Alabama. Most places in Alabama are not yet in the clear. Pinson is not in the clear yet. Alabama as a whole, we really don't have anybody in Alabama who is completely in the clear yet. Let's see. Tornado watch in northern Georgia. That is what if I said tornado warning, that was my fault. Tornado watch in northern Georgia, to clarify, by the way. Let me see what else we have right now. Looking at severe weather potential farther to the east, I will also say the threat farther east is not as big as it once was. Seeing your question about Virginia too, and Ohio as well. Questions about Virginia and Ohio, I'll get to those here really quickly too. We're going to switch off radar for a second, and we're going to open up our severe weather outlook so we can see where the storms are going to impact later today. Then we'll take a look at tomorrow as well. But here's our outlook for severe storms, and what you're seeing is the severe weather threat that is going to end up being greatest for the most part is going to be staying here in the south, but that potential for severe weather does extend into at least a good chunk of Georgia, into South Carolina, North Carolina, Kentucky. But once you get out towards Ohio, you're just in a level 1 severe weather threat. So that level 1 severe weather risk, that's you should be aware, and you should have a plan just in case, but it really is a just in case kind of thing. I did not see a warning by Cleveland. I did not. But as you can tell, we are also looking at a risk tomorrow. I guess you can't tell yet, but let me show you. We have a severe weather risk tomorrow, which takes us across many of the Carolinas here. And that is going to be a threat that impacts us through the daytime hours. Tomorrow's risk, though, will begin to die down after dark. And again, there it is for you guys on YouTube. There's our tornado threat, our severe weather threat in general, mainly damaging wind threat tomorrow. Those of you guys I'm seeing a lot of questions about Tennessee now. If you are in Chattanooga, it is raining out there, and that isn't a bad sign. The rain means it's kind of a sign of how our storms are all really clustered out there today. And I'll take a look at Knoxville too, but it's a sign that all our storms are really clustered out there today, and they're really having a hard time fighting for their own ingredients. So yes, that is actually a pretty good sign that it's raining, but it's not a sign that there is no severe threat. That severe threat is certainly still there. All right, getting to more of your Tennessee questions. I'm seeing Spring Hill. I'm seeing Knoxville. Let me take a look at both. What I will say is that both places, the threat for damaging wind is very, very real out in those spots. The threat for tornadoes, at least if you're in Knoxville, is a bit higher than Spring Hill right now because the storms are largely out of Spring Hill. In fact, the risk in Spring Hill looks pretty low right now, although it's not completely over. It is pretty low. We did actually just get a new tornado warning in Tennessee, though, so I'm going to take us back to radar, in fact. New tornado warning. This is near Crossville, Tennessee. We're going to switch to our Nashville radar, and we are looking at, actually, do we have a closer radar than that? Oh, yeah, we're going to use Nashville radar here. So new tornado warning for Tennessee. This is moving near Crossville, Pleasant Hill, Lake Tansy. You can see this here as well. We're pulling this open on our YouTube stream as well. And we're taking a look at live radar now. And here we are. Crossville, Pleasant Hill, Bowman also included in this. If I take a look at our velocity, let's see what we got here. So there is some weak rotation included in this. It's nothing really that impressive, but I will highlight this for you guys so you can see what I'm looking at as well. And with this threat, actually you can see on what radar are we looking at? Oh, I was on the wrong radar on YouTube here. This makes it appear a little more ominous. So, all right, so we do have rotation. You can see those bright red and bright blue colors side by side. You see that there? I just circled it. That is where we have wind moving very quickly in opposite directions on our radar. So that tells us that there is rotation within this storm. And what that means, more or less, is that the storm is spinning very quickly, at least in the middle levels of the atmosphere. And of course, here on YouTube, we can see this as well. This is our rotation right there, kind of being blocked by the tornado warning box a little bit. But this we are looking at from a distance from the radar. So what we're seeing is a lot of rotation in the middle of the storm. Of course, for a tornado, we need to be looking at the lower side portion of the storm. If you're headed to Knoxville right now, just make sure you have a safe place to go in case there's a warning. I'll say that. Just make sure you have a way to get warnings. This goes for you guys in Georgia too. Make sure you have a way to get warnings, and make sure you have a safe place to go. Again, lowest floor of a building or an interior room on that lowest floor. A basement or an interior room on the lowest floor of a building. Those are going to be your safest places to go. So Abert Domain, Newton, we got Thomas Springs, Old Winesap, Hale Mill, Toddtown. I'm going to name a town Tuckertown someday. Ridgedale, West Mill, Claysville, Baker Crossroads. We got Woodlawn, Creston, Parker Ford, Woody, and Bowman also included in this tornado warning. So if I read off one of your towns or an area that you're near, you really got to be in the basement now because you have that tornado threat increasing, and that is why that tornado warning was just issued. We'll take a look a bit farther. So actually, we're going to stick on this storm in Tennessee because those storms farther south actually don't look particularly impressive either. Honestly, right now, again, I will admit I'm surprised by how, and this is still a dangerous day. We're still getting tornado warnings, but I'm surprised by how timid, so to speak, today's severe weather has been. Let's see. So the Coleman storm has moved beyond Coleman. It is no longer in Coleman. We're talking about Alabama. But you do have some heavy rain that you're going to be stuck with for a little while here. And there's our storm. Just got a radar update. Still seeing that rotation. You see that the blue and red colors side by side? That is a sign that we have a spinning storm. There's a lot of motion in there, and we're looking at the potential for a tornado to be produced. By the way, I'm seeing a bunch of you guys look like they've just jumped on. And if you guys are new here, I want to let you know I am a meteorologist. I do meteorology for a living. I'm a weatherman in Boston, actually. I work on Channel 25 out here. And I just want to let you know you're going to get good weather information with me. Again, I have a degree in meteorology. Like I said, I'm a professional. So consider following here. Those of you guys who are watching on TikTok, those of you guys who are watching on YouTube, consider subscribing. Again, I'm going to do my best to keep you guys safe, give you the best information. And, I really hope I'll see you guys again in some of these live streams, some of this content. But I'm here for you guys, here to help you. If you have any questions I'm not getting to, you can also find me on Instagram at Tucker Weather. You can just DM me your questions there. I'll do my best to respond to all you guys. And also, just for you guys who are on TikTok, just so you know, I've been producing a lot more regular YouTube content. So, every other day at least, I'm putting out a video, like 5 to 10 minutes. Tells you about what the weather is going to be like, the weather highlights for the next week. We were talking about this severe weather threat. We were talking about this severe weather threat about 9 days ago, in fact. So if you were following my YouTube channel, following the stuff I was putting on there, you would have had about almost a week and a half lead time before this storm. So those of you guys on TikTok, be sure to check me out at Tucker Weather. Everything I do is Tucker Weather. But be sure to check me out on YouTube. I'm really trying to do my best to build a presence on there in addition to TikTok, just in case TikTok ever went away also. And I really appreciate your support. Of course, I'm really here to support you, but, it's nice to know that I'm at least getting in front of some eyes and making a difference. So consider that. Tucker Weather on YouTube. You don't need to check it out now, but if you're interested in more content, stuff like that, be sure to find me there because I'm putting a lot of time into that and hopefully kind of changing the game a little bit, keeping you guys prepared in some more, some different ways, because I know a lot of people are on there these days. All right, still watching this storm in Tennessee. Crossville, Pleasant Hill, Bowman are all places that are in the path of this. You can see we still have this area of rotation, and while we cannot confirm a tornado here, it is in an area where a tornado may occur, just given the environment and the rotation that we're seeing. Yeah, let me take a look at Eagleville, Tennessee for you. I got to look up where that is, though. Eagleville, Tennessee. Eagleville, all right, I see it, south of Nashville. So with the storms here in Tennessee, the good news is that a lot of them, at least if you're in western Tennessee, that storm threat has largely decreased. In eastern Tennessee, it's still present. Middle Tennessee, the storm threat is getting pretty low, which is good news, of course. But it's not completely over yet. And it looks like we just got a new tornado warning. Actually, those of you guys who are in Chattanooga, this is a storm that just moved through Chattanooga. So new tornado warning right outside Chattanooga. And this is a storm. You can kind of see the rotation right here. It is just to the north and we'll call it the north-northeast of Chattanooga, right by Middle Valley. We're going to jump on this. You can see this here if you're watching on TikTok and on YouTube. I've just highlighted the storm for you guys. It is not in Chattanooga. Chattanooga is not at risk. I repeat, you are not at risk in Chattanooga, but this storm is pretty close to areas not far to your north and east. So if you know anyone near Lake Site, getting close to Chickamauga Lake, that's where we have the potential for a tornado right now. Actually, there was a second area of rotation near Chickamauga Lake. So we got two spots where there is some rotation. Not to say that they will both produce tornadoes, but at least there are some storms that are spinning out here. And we can see them right out there. Some of the smaller areas that may be impacted by these storms include Dallas Hills, Shady Grove, Blue Springs, Shore Acres, Bluffview, Birchwood, Lakewood. Again, all of these areas are just to the north and east of Chattanooga, which meanwhile is still dealing with damaging wind gusts. And we have some severe storm warnings in the general vicinity too, where we have wind gusts that are quite strong. Here's our storm. You can kind of see it has that hook-like shape. I'm going to pull that open up on our reflectivity. Now we got, like I said, two areas of rotation here, both where we're seeing those hooks. And we're going to keep an eye on these ones. One just south of Bakewell, this other one south of Lake Site. And these storms are moving to the north and east right now, both of them. So we still have to watch some dangerous storms. Of course, Chattanooga, like I said, again, though, you are not in this risk. It is just outside of where you guys are. If you got plans in Atlanta tonight, all I'm going to say is make sure you have your phone on you. and make sure you're checking it every so often, because that is in an area where we could see tornadoes as well, but mainly late tonight, midnight and later. Still looking at these two areas of rotation, by the way, here in Tennessee, getting near Chickamauga Lake. This one is south of Bakewell. This one is south of Lakesite. So if you're near Lakesite or Bakewell or Chickamauga Lake or even Birchwood, you got to be paying attention as these storms continue to move to the northeast right now. Warrior, Alabama is not completely done with the threat, but the worst of it is out of here. So there's some good news there. Yeah, if you're on the roads around 8:30 in Atlanta, you'll be okay at that time. You'll be okay at 8:30 in Atlanta. The peak threat is not around that time in Atlanta. Let's see here. But anyway, you can see those two areas of rotation. With the storms as quiet as they are at this time, and to be honest, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, looking at this severe setup in general right now, this is not looking very well organized or impressive. There's a lot of potential in the day today, but it is not being tapped into at all. And looking at radar again, you're seeing so much of that yellow color. You see how it's so yellow? That is, we call it stratiform rain. Those are the tops of our storms basically raining out on the environment here. So if I zoom out, you're going to see what I'm talking about. A lot of stratiform rain. Stratiform rain is oftentimes a killer of severe weather. So while the threat is not over, and while there is still a lot of time before the threat will end, the threat right now is somewhat low. We've been live for about 3 hours, so I'm going to actually probably take a break here. And if it gets busy later on, I'll come back on. I'll make sure you guys are ahead of the game. I'm just going to do a little lightning round, answer some of your questions as quickly as I can. So I'm going to move my TikTok camera. I'm going to take it off the screen. I'm going to put it on me here in just a moment. But basically, our severe weather threat, not as significant as, to be honest, forecasted, which is a good thing. The threat may be busting just a little bit, but you do need to stay alert because, let me switch my camera around here. You do need to stay alert because the threat is going to remain present as we go through the rest of this evening. And by present, I mean don't let your guard down. There is still that potential for a tornado pretty much anywhere as we look ahead at the rest of the evening. Sorry, I'm managing two cameras at once right now. There we go. All right, so now we can, there we go. Now we can do this, hopefully, if I can get that to balance. So I'm just going to do a lightning round. I'm going to do my best to answer your questions. Hi, guys. I have a face. Those of you who've been watching on YouTube, you've seen my face the entire time. Let me set this up. Those of you who've been watching on TikTok, you have not seen my face at all, so I am a real person. I do exist. There we go. All right, so let me get to as many of your questions as possible before I wrap this up. We're going to talk about that severe weather risk. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got here. Ask as many of your questions as possible. Yeah, that tornado warning near Chattanooga, it is not going to impact Chattanooga. It is moving away from Chattanooga right now to the north and east. Yeah, Atlanta does have the potential to see severe weather as we get later into tonight. That is going to be, around 11, midnight, later than that as well. So with Atlanta, our threat for severe weather is certainly not over, so I don't want you to let your guard down. But what I will say is that the trends today has been friendly to us in that the severe weather has not been panning out to the same degree as what's been forecasted. In other words, our severe weather threat has come in a little bit weaker than what was forecasted, which of course is very good news for us. Let me see here. Hey, if you're in Virginia tomorrow, yes, you could still get severe weather, though. Out there in Salem, Virginia, you could still get severe weather tomorrow. Let me see what else we got here. Severe weather warning in Tallahassee. Let me see what you're seeing out there. You probably got, I don't know what you got in Tallahassee, because I'll tell you, it's pretty sunny. If we're talking Florida, at least, it's pretty sunny out there. Maybe it's a different Tallahassee. Ohio is going to be dealing with some weaker storms tonight. I'm not expecting a significant threat in Ohio, but we do have the potential for at least some. We have the potential for just some general thunderstorms and some stronger storms mixed in. The tornado threat in Ohio is not super significant. Let's see. Yeah, Hannah. If the threat increases, if we start to see a lot of tornado warnings pop up, I will definitely go live again tonight. So it will be situational. So yeah, if you guys in Atlanta and in Alabama, if this threat really picks up again, in Tennessee, I'll be right back here. I'll be watching for you guys. If you have any questions too, by the way, at any point, like I said, you can find me on YouTube at Tucker Weather or on Instagram at Tucker Weather, even Twitter. I see your messages there a lot quicker than on TikTok. So if you have questions, if you're concerned, like I said, you can message me. Instagram, I probably see your messages quickest. So at Tucker Weather, if you got questions later tonight, I'm happy to answer your questions there. I'll do my best to get to each and every one of you. Missouri's all right. No severe weather in Missouri. You're good out there. Worst part of Georgia is going to be the north and western side of Georgia. Right now, the way things are going, it doesn't look like it's going to be terrible, but you should be prepared for a tornado in case one does form. You should definitely be prepared just in case, okay? Columbus, Georgia, similar story. You're pretty far west, so you should be prepared for a tornado just in case, but the threat of a tornado out there doesn't appear to be particularly significant, mostly because that threat, just so far today, hasn't really materialized to the same degree that we were expecting it might, and that's a good thing, of course. But what we do need to keep watching out for is still that there is a lot of energy in the atmosphere, and it doesn't take too much to spin something up. Phoenix City, Alabama. Tell me what that's near, and I'll take a look for you guys. Yeah, so today. So here's the thing with today's forecast, because I know we're about to get a lot of. I can tell you as a meteorologist, we're about to get hammered because there have been tornadoes, there have been some damaging storms, but certainly nowhere near as many as we were expecting. So what happened today, and it's not over yet. Today's not over yet. There is still going to be likely some more tornado warnings. But so far today, we haven't seen as many materialize in Alabama, at least. Mississippi was active. We haven't seen as many materialize in Alabama, but the atmosphere is, there is so much energy in the atmosphere. It's one of those days where if things were just slightly drier, or slightly warmer, we'd potentially have just a crazy busy day, a historic day. We're really, really, even though it doesn't look like it, we're likely really close to that. Weather models, they're never perfect. They're never perfect. But what we can say from this is that models certainly overplayed this, and human forecasters certainly overplayed this. But all the ingredients were there. It's just our storms so far, unless you were in Mississippi, weren't really able to tap into them. Thanks, Owen. Yeah, so basically today we had a high ceiling. We didn't quite hit that. All right, let me see more of I'm looking for more of your comments here. Let me see. Yeah, that's right. The Alabama grandmothers got the job done. The prayers. I believe. Let's see. Yeah, I think it was fair to have to forecast the high risk personally today. Everything was out there, but like I said, by the way, guys, if you've been watching for a while, thanks for sticking around. If you've just jumped on, I'll say it again. I'm going to be jumping off here in just a few minutes, just trying to answer some of your questions before we wrap this up. Those of you guys on YouTube as well, same deal. We'll be doing a lot more lives through the rest of the season, a lot more severe weather lives especially, so consider following here on TikTok. You bet, Mike. Consider following, consider subscribing on YouTube also. Like I said, I'm at Tucker Weather on YouTube, really trying to build more of a community on YouTube as well. But happy to have you all here. And yeah, you bet. You bet, Uga. I've been really hoping to, just keep you guys informed. I'm going to keep doing that through the rest of the season. YouTube, again, is where I'll be posting some more of my regular content. So if you're worried about severe weather, if you're hearing about a severe weather threat days in advance, head on over to my YouTube page at Tucker Weather. I will absolutely have information out on it. And if there isn't information on it, it's probably because it doesn't exist. So that's a good place, a good resource for you guys to check out. Like I said, Tucker Weather. That's where you can find me on YouTube. If you got questions, Tucker Weather on Instagram. And, of course, here on TikTok. And if you want, I'm on Facebook and Twitter also. You know my handle, so you know where to find me, whatever you guys prefer to use. I'm very glad, hopefully everything worked out all right in Raleigh last night. That was pretty crazy that there actually was a tornado that ended up hitting. Just considering we talked about it so much hours before, that was pretty crazy. Florence had that tornado warning earlier. The thing with Florence is that tornado warning now has largely moved on. So what was going to be perhaps a bigger threat is not as big. The tornado warning ended a while ago, and Florence is now looking at more of just some heavy rain and potentially some flooding here. But that's the biggest concern at this point going forward. The severe weather threat looks like it has ended in Florence. Let's see. Southern Ohio, you should be okay. No, you should be okay in Southern Ohio. I'll say that there is still a severe weather threat out there, but it's not as significant as some areas to the south. It's a kind of a low severe weather threat, actually. Northern Kentucky, there is a chance for tornadoes, but it's a lower chance for tornadoes. Knoxville, that threat for tornadoes is still present. Knoxville, especially in the next 2 hours, that's when I believe the greatest chance for tornadoes is going to be over the next 2 to 3 hours, we'll say Knoxville. So keep an eye out and just be careful out there. I'm going to wrap this up in just a minute, guys. So, again, it's been 3 hours now. I want to say thanks for being here. We'll be doing a lot more of these through the spring. So before I hop off, again, consider following. Check out my YouTube channel at Tucker Weather. That I would really appreciate the support and all that stuff. And hopefully I'm able to help you guys out with some information out there too. And yeah, we're going to wrap this up. So thanks for being here. Hopefully we're able to keep you safe. Hopefully you learned a few things. And we will be, keeping a close eye on everything that plays out over the rest of the spring and onwards. Severe weather season is just getting started. And I'll have a lot more information as we go through the rest of the season and, basically always. So thanks for being here. Stay safe, everyone. And I will see you all next time.